use like Metro PCS? Because I see all those commercials that they do. We're live? Right now we're live? We're on the air? Miesha Tate, we're on the air.
What's up?
I just had to let Miesha Tate know the world was flat. She didn't know that the man has been holding us down and fucking with us and giving us bad information. That satellites are bullshit and that the Earth doesn't rely on gravity, but it uses electromagnetism to make sure things get stuck.
Where is this coming from?
The world.
The world.
There's a lot of people out there in the world that are waking up. Do you know what being woke is? Are you aware of being woke?
No.
You don't know about being woke? Jamie's woke.
Stay woke.
Stay woke. You got to stay woke. Stay woke.
So people think that the Earth is flat?
Yes. You can also use wokeness as
Oh my God.
you could use it as like you could say like I have wokeness. You know what I'm saying? Like just because you're the UFC Bantamweight champion does not equal your wokeness.
So what is wokeness? What is it?
You're woke.
You're woke.
You're aware
you're
of
just
all
aware.
the bullshit that the man has been.
Like the Earth being round.
The Earth ain't round. The Earth's flat as fuck. The Earth is flat, and chemtrails are the government spraying the skies, and there's no gravity. Here's
actually do
square
wonder about
and
that. I don't
stationary
know.
Earth. Oh, is this a new one?
That's one of the parts of the theory.
You think about you think chemtrails are real? Is that what you're saying?
Well, I don't know. I kind of wonder what they are.
Yeah,
Like, what are they?
That's a good question.
I wonder.
The
Like, I don't
problem is
know.
when people take that and then they go right to conspiracy questions.
Yeah, right. I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but I have questions. Like, I want to know what they are.
When
what are
a
they?
jet engine flies through the sky and the jet engine encounters condensation in the atmosphere, it creates an artificial cloud. It's not an artificial cloud, it's an actual cloud. And the cloud is a direct reaction to the jet engine changing the temperature of the air in the atmosphere. It is scientifically proven. It's repeatable. They could do it over and over again. That's why when you see those things in the sky, those things exist when the jet engines pass through the condensation and it changes the temperature. And then they slowly fade away or not, depending upon how much moisture is in the atmosphere.
Why do some planes do it and other ones don't?
Well, because some planes are at different altitudes and some planes, you know how clouds exist in some places, but they don't exist in other places?
Because in Vegas, there's people... Well, maybe there's no condensation in Vegas. So it was like there's flights coming in all the time, and you watch a steady stream coming in, and none of them have it. But then like the little I don't know, they're like small. I don't know if they're small planes. They're not commercial planes. The little ones, those are the ones that make all the chemtrails. So I'm like, does that? Well, they call them chemtrails. I don't even know if I'm technically saying it right now. I don't know what they are. Well, what do they call them?
They call them contrails. That's
contrails.
the real. Like if you ask a scientist, they call them contrails. If you ask conspiracy people, they'll call them chemtrails.
Okay.
Because they think they're spraying chemicals in the air. This is something that I had to like deeply study for this show that I did called Joe Rogan Questions Everything.
I wondered about this for a long time. I've heard so many. I've heard obviously most of the conspiracy part of it.
Everybody hears about it.
And
Everybody
I wonder,
hears about it.
I've heard that they're trying to like control the weather with it somehow by putting.
That's part of the problem is that they are trying to control the weather. In different parts of the world, they spray, they do what's called cloud seeding. Mm-hmm. But cloud seeding is very different than what you're seeing when you're seeing these artificial clouds. What cloud seeding is, they'll spray a certain type of chemical into the atmosphere that will create rain. And they do it in Abu Dhabi. In Abu Dhabi, they actually do it every week. They do it once. So they've done it like 52 times a year.
And it makes rain?
Yeah. That's been going on for a long time. But that's very different than these artificial clouds that are being created by jets. That's just a side effect of air travel.
Can that be good for you, though? Like
the artificial jets or the rain?
Rain. The chemical?
It's just rain. Well, it's silver iodine, I think, and some other stuff.
Is it fine to breathe in and stuff?
Yeah, I'm sure it's not any better than jet fuel that's burning in your sky above your head.
Very true.
That's the real problem.
Yeah, and the gas driving here and all that good stuff.
Well, people that live near airports, they have a significantly higher rate of lung infections and lung diseases and lung disorders.
Interesting. Like how far? Now I'm thinking about how far I live from the Vegas airport.
How far do you live?
It takes me like 20 minutes to get there, 15 minutes. Is that too close?
Okay. Probably okay. Well, I think we're all fucked.
Yeah.
We're all fucked. We're all breathing in
We're all
brake
living
dust.
under the same flat earth.
Exactly, under the same flat earth. Well, that's one of the problems with the whole chemtrail theory. Like, don't they live down here too? They're spraying the skies. Like, what are they trying to do? And the idea is it's either weather modification or that they're trying to change our behavior. That's some people think it's they're changing our behavior.
I've heard of it's something to do with crops too or something. They're trying to. I don't know.
They're growing crops in Vegas.
I don't think they grow shit in Vegas. Tumbleweeds.
They probably grow pot now. probably a lot of pot grown in Vegas.
There probably is.
It used to be so illegal. Like, if you went to Vegas, you had to be, like, really careful about having weed. But
Yeah.
now when you drive around, they have these giant weed doctor
I
billboards and
know.
shit.
It's really weird. It's like the call 1-800-HOT-BABE on one side and then
Yeah.
Dr. Weed on the other side.
That's a weird place to live, isn't it?
It is, but it's. I feel like Vegas is kind of what you make it. It's whatever you make it. Like, if you want to go down to the Strip and be crazy and be wild and hang out with all the hooligans that are there for the weekend, you can. But if not, like, you just live in your little house and go hike the Red Rocks and go down to the lake. It's pretty barren, pretty ugly lake, honestly. I came from Washington State, so I'm used to a lot of greenery.
Yeah.
And it's beautiful there, and we got the San Juan Islands, and you can go whale watching, and it's just gorgeous, but it rains way too much. We have a national rainforest up there, too. It's beautiful. But
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Washington State. But
Gorgeous.
the rain can fuck with your head, right?
Yeah, I couldn't. I lived there for. I mean, I was 18 before I moved to the eastern side, which is very different. Actually, a lot of people don't know this. So the mountain range divides the state in half, and on the eastern side of Washington, it's super dry. It's like deserty. Like, there's actually tumbleweeds and sand dunes and all that. It's completely different on the other side of Washington. The moisture comes in from the ocean, hits the mountains, rolls back over, rains like double duty on the west side, and then the east side of Washington is really dry.
And you're from Spokane, right?
No, I'm from Tacoma.
Tacoma.
To Compton.
To Compton? Is that what people call it? That's hilarious.
Yeah.
Is it ghetto?
Yeah, it is.
Is
It's pretty
it?
ghetto. But I lived on that. It's really big, actually. It's I think, if I'm not mistaken, I should probably know these things, but I don't pay attention to a lot of things, as you'll probably find out. I don't know a lot of statistics and stuff. I'm kind of like one of those fly by the seat of my pants, like, whatever's going on, it's cool. But I think it's one of the biggest, like, circumference, like the widest cities, like not most populated, but like most area in Washington. Anyway, so I live on the very outskirts, like near Puyallup. So I grew up on like 5 acres, and like I had some land. I wasn't like in the heart of it, but it's a pretty cool place.
So going from there to living in Vegas, but I guess like as you're a professional fighter, your days are probably so filled with training and recovery and
Yeah.
eating. Like, how much time do you actually have to even be in the city that you're in?
Like none when I'm in camp.
Yeah.
Really not much. Maybe on the weekends sometimes. That's what's nice about it too, is you can go down there and just enjoy a comedy show. I mean, you come through often, like a lot of acts come through, Kevin Hart comes through, a lot of musicians, a lot of concerts. So it's nice because everyone comes to you, essentially. You don't have to go travel to see anyone. So if you want to just set the cup down for a minute and like take a break from the training game, or want to go ride the big Ferris wheel that they have there, what do you call it?
Yeah, I don't know what that's on.
The link.
Right.
Yeah, they want to go ride that or do whatever, It's nice because there's so much going on.
As long as you can stay outside of it.
Right.
Like you like in like Henderson or something like that?
I live in Mountain's Edge. So yeah, for the most part, I don't ever even see the Strip unless I'm driving by it, like to go visit the UFC offices or something like that. But,
Well, it's a good place to live as a professional fighter, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
there's a lot of gyms there. There's a lot of great training there. There's like
Yeah.
across
And-
the board, strength and
and
conditioning,
100%.
Muay Thai, boxing.
well, and it's the home of the UFC, so it's nice there too because there's a lot of extracurricular things that I get to take part of because I'm local. I
Right.
get to do a lot more charity things and with the Boys and Girls Club and just going and being a part of the UFC. I guess I get to do more things.
That's
being
cool.
there. Yeah,
Now, your life is very different right now than it was a year ago.
it is.
How crazy is that?
Yeah.
Like a year ago, you were
Crazy.
talking about like not doing this anymore. You were like,
Yeah.
I got to figure out what I'm doing.
I was
and now
frustrated.
you're the fucking world champ.
I know.
What's
Here
up?
I am. Talk about a freaking 180. Yeah, my career in life couldn't have been different a year ago than it is now.
How strange is that? How that can just like
change
that.
in an instant. You just never know.
What does that feel like? It's like when you wake up in the morning, do you have to go, okay,
I wake
there's
up
the belt.
in the morning
I guess
feeling
that's real.
like P. Diddy. No, for real. I'm happy. It's enlightening. It's fun. It's great to be the champ. I love it, honestly. It's a completely different feeling. And yeah, a year ago I was so frustrated because when I lost to Ronda the last time, I knew I had a long road, and to work my way back up. But I thought I had done that. And when I beat Jessica Ai, it was announced as like, this is going to be the number one contender eliminator fight. And then afterwards, they're like, yes, it is. You're going to fight Ronda. Then I felt like the carpet was kind of just pulled out from under my feet because they were like, just kidding. Holly's Holly's fighting, and they
Yeah.
announced it without telling me. So that's why I was so upset, because I was like, I don't take this shit lightly,
Yeah.
Like, I was training my ass off already. I'd already reached out to a girl in France. I can't say her name right. I think it's like Javri, I don't know, some French name, but she beat Ronda in judo. So I'd already like been making plans with her to train with her and fly her over here, and she was changing things. And I was like, I felt like such an ass. Like, I feel like an idiot. Like, I
Right.
looked like an idiot, because here the announcement was made and I didn't even know. So I was
Right.
kind of upset about that. But, we talked about it and we smoothed things over. And I took it personally at the time, but I don't think it was meant personally. It was a business decision, and I understand that at the end of the day. That's what it was. And it all worked out. So
Well, the UFC is in a weird position because they're both a promoter and sort of a sanctioning body.
Yep.
And that's really rare. Mm-hmm. As a matter of fact, I can't think of any other sport where that exists.
Yeah.
They have just this ability to decide. Like, they'll just decide, like, this person gets a shot. Like, the whole Conor McGregor situation is a perfect example of that.
Yeah.
Like, all of a sudden, if he had beaten Nate Diaz, or if he had beaten Dos Anjos, like if Dos Anjos didn't get injured and he beat Dos Anjos, you fucking know for sure they were going to have him fight Robbie Lawler.
Yeah.
Like, for sure. And they were just going to, like, figure out a way to do something with a 145-pound title. And why wouldn't they do it if they were business people? Because that's where the money is. I mean, it would have been, if he had beat Dos Anjos and then went on and fought Robbie Lawler, Jesus Christ, when you're talking like a $5 million pay-per-view
Right.
buy event, they'd have to do it.
It would be insane.
But if that was like a sanctioning body, like, you've seen it before in like boxing, like someone won't take a mandatory challenger and they get stripped even when they just won the title. It happens all the time. Like,
Yep.
where a fighter would just win the title and then they have this mandatory challenger who nobody knows, and they'll go, fuck that fight, I'm going to go fight Canelo Alvarez, I'm going to fight this guy or that guy, and then they get stripped. Like, because there's like 5 different sanctioning bodies. Like, boxing is way more of a mess. So there's like pros and cons
Yeah.
to doing it the way the UFC does it. But from a point of view of someone like you, it's probably much more frustrating.
Well, you just never know what to expect. Like, you get curveballs all the time in the UFC. You don't know what to expect. Like, a lot of people were so pissed off at me for the Holly Holm not having the rematch right away. But it's like, that's not my choice. They
Why would
have,
they piss off at you?
I don't know, because they think that I like turned it down, or I should have went in there like guns a-blazing for Holly and like put myself out on my shield. Like, no, we have to have the Holly rematch, you guys. You don't understand. But they call me up and like, Amanda, July 9th. I'm like, okay.
Yeah, how do you
They
say
didn't
no to
even ask me.
UFC 200? How the
No.
fuck do you say no?
No, you don't.
You can't say no. If that's
So-
what they come up with, you're like, I'm in.
Yeah. And it's like, dude, relax. Most people don't get immediate rematches in their career. Like, unless you are Conor McGregor or Ronda or, someone that's really got a presence, you don't get an immediate rematch. Like, I didn't when I went back in Strikeforce when I lost to Ronda. I didn't get an immediate. I've never gotten an immediate rematch in my career. I would have loved to immediately rematch Kat when I lost to her, but you just don't get it sometimes. You got to work your way back up and, hope for the best. But we will. I'm sure we'll fight each other again. She's fighting Valentina Shevchenko now. You heard about
Yeah, that's going to be in Chicago, right?
Yeah.
That's going to be on the Rumble Johnson Glover Teixeira card, which is, whoa,
that? Yeah,
whoa, that's going to be crazy.
it is. And they're both southpaws and strikers. It's going to be interesting.
Yeah, Shevchenko's tough as shit, too. She's
Good
she's like a
striking, too.
bulldog.
It's going to be interesting.
She's very, like, physically fucking
Strong.
She's like, like the way she fights, she's very physical.
I feel like they're kind of both. I was just watching her fight with Amanda again the other day. I think I only got through like the round and a half before I had to go because I was doing the Fox show the other day, and we announced the fight with Holly. That's why I was watching Shevchenko, and she seems like a counter striker too, though. I always wonder when you get two people who are counter strikers but elite strikers, what happens?
Well, Holly is much more of a kicker, and Holly also is like much more fleet of foot. So it's going to be interesting. But Holly's not weak either. She's very
No.
physically strong. So
Super
it's gonna,
strong.
It's going to be an interesting fight. That's a really good fight. And for Shevchenko, it's super important. She's had a couple pretty good fights in the UFC.
Yeah.
But like this is the big one.
It is.
This is like the
Well, they're
chance to put her
headlining. on
on the map. Is it headlining?
Yeah,
Yeah.
so it'll be a big one.
Is that the main event of
I
that
believe
card?
so.
I think that's the same card as Rumble Johnson and Glover. I can't imagine that
I
fight
think so.
wouldn't be the main event, but I don't know. It might be on. Is it
Yeah.
on Fox?
Yeah,
Is it Fox one? That's gonna be a big fight.
it will be.
It's an awesome card. Period. That Chicago, cause Chicago's awesome. I love Chicago.
Oh my God, it's one of my favorite cities in the world. Have you ever had Molly's cupcakes?
No.
You were gonna say Molly.
Are you really into cupcakes? Like, you have this nickname, Cupcake. Is that real?
Yeah, I
Are
love
you a
it.
cupcake
You
fan?
know what's weird? So recently, probably the last month, I've been working with a new sports doctor, Dr. Edwards, and changing my diet, which is great. So I've been eating more of a high fat diet.
Oh, okay.
A
Ketogenic?
Yeah, ketogenic diet. And I've been staying away from a lot of sugars and stuff. And I feel really good. So I haven't been mowing down the cupcakes recently. But in the past, I've been known to put down, a couple.
And the moment you said ketogenic, there's thousands of people listening to this podcast and like, no, not again, because it comes up so often. Because I've been doing that
though.
for 5 months. I've been eating nothing but that. Like that's how I eat.
Right.
And I've lost like 10 pounds. Right. Yeah.
Brian's lost so much weight on this diet. Like his camp before that was a struggle to get the weight down because he's really big for 135. He gets up to like 165.
Yeah.
He can get up to 170-ish.
Yeah, I remember when he was making the cut the first time. I was like, ooh.
Yeah, it was hard. But this one, you switch to that, with a little bit of carbs. Obviously, if you're an athlete, you have to have some carbs. You can't do strictly fats and whatnot. But anyways, the weight has flown off. He's way ahead of schedule. He's doing really good. So we're pumped about that. And I'm eating shitloads of fats too and staying lean and healthy, and I feel good.
So like, do you do like what protocol are you following? Like, is it like 60% fats, 30% protein, 10% carbs? Like, do you know?
No, I'm not that scientific about it. I kind of just listen to my body and I just eat what I feel. I feel like I've been doing it so long that I just kind of have a natural sense. It's like if I'm hungry, then I just choose to eat something that's more fat based than something that's sugary or carby.
Like what kind of foods are you gravitating towards?
So recently I've been so stoked about liver mousse.
Liver mousse? Like,
yeah, it's like mousse.
Pate?
Yeah, they're delicious. Like if you go to Whole Foods and you go to the cheese section, they have these little packages of moussed liver and they have different flavors. And I got like a truffled one. I think I ate almost the whole thing in one sitting, but they're not that big. I mean, they're like, but it's kind of a lot of fat, and the liver's really, really good for you. It's got like vitamin D and tons of vitamin C. I guess more than carrots. Like liver has crazy amounts of vitamin C. So it's just like a superfood. My doctor told me, I'm like, I'll eat whatever. I tend to like foods more when I know they're good for me too. Something like mentally in my brain just tells me this is good for you. You like it.
Really? Well, I guess if you train as much as you do, that does totally make sense.
Yeah, and beets.
Beets are great for you.
Yeah, beet juice.
Oh yeah, that stuff's fantastic for you. Beet juice also, it mimics things like the endurance properties of things like certain mushrooms. Like if you take beets, like Rich Roll, who is a endurance athlete, was saying that he found like significant advantages in taking beet juice, and that like blending beets in like a kale shake or something along those lines really gave him like an extra boost in training.
Yeah, this is a little company called Love Beets. Oh, I don't know if they're little. They could be big. Love Beets. You see a lot of them at the Whole Foods too. They have like the cans of beets. And I was doing UFC Embedded and I had beets on my salad. And then they reached out to me like, "Oh, we saw she had beets on her salad. We want to send her out some beet juice." Like maybe she was having Love Beets. Well, actually, it was Love Beets. And they sent me out this. Oh man, this shit's delicious. It's so good. And they have one that's beets and ginger. They have one that, oh my god, it's to die for. I love it.
Yeah, all that stuff. Like anytime you can get like powerful natural nutrients like beets.
And they come
ginger.
in glass too. Which I'm kind of like, cool. I kind of got on that glass, drinking out of glass instead of plastic. I kind of got on that train a little bit. I don't know if you're on that yet.
Well, it's definitely smart. I mean, plastic for sure can leach some chemicals.
Well, you can taste it sometimes in the water, and I'm like, if I can taste it, and our body's made up so much of water anyways, so I think with the better water you put in your body, makes more sense, right?
For sure. Well, the real issue I think is when people leave bottles of water, plastic bottles in their car. Yeah,
and they heat up.
Yeah.
Well, think about how they get transported. It's not like they're in a cooler.
Very good point. Yeah.
I mean, you drink them cold. If it's cold, you don't taste the plastic as much. So they sell it to you cold, or you put it in the fridge and you drink your water bottle, and you don't really taste it as much. But if you let it get to room temperature, just buying it from the store, you'll taste some plastic.
I wonder if anybody's ever done any studies where they've taken just Arrowhead water and Fiji water from the shelf and just tested it and see how much funky shit is in the actual water itself. Yeah,
I wonder too. But just the fact that I can taste it sometimes, like I think I'll go with glass. It's like more natural. It's better for you, right?
Yeah, for sure. So do you eat a lot of avocados, MCT oil, coconut 100%, oil, things like that?
MCT oils. I've been digging this. Are you into turmeric?
Yeah,
and
sure.
curcumin.
Curcumin, yeah.
Oh yeah,
Love
yeah.
that stuff.
The Dr. Rhonda Patrick show. Oh my gosh, she blew my mind. I've listened to that episode like 5 times.
She's
I was
been on like 4
obsessed with
times,
it.
and I still have to go back over them with like a fine-tooth comb
I'm
and write
obsessed.
notes.
I just downloaded the second one. So I've listened to the first one like 5 times, so I figured I think I got enough of the information finally. She's so freaking smart. And then now I downloaded the one before the last one, so I'm about to listen to that one probably on the flight home.
Yeah, she's spooky smart.
Yeah, so she was talking about all that, and my sports doctor's is in complete agreement. So, anyways, I don't know where I was going with that. What did you ask me? Oh, what, about eating? Oh,
Yeah.
coconut oil, curcumin or turmeric, and ginger. I make like a tea in the morning, and I eat that. I like blend it up so it's frothy and delicious. Speaking of not eating a lot of sugar, though, I did UFC on UFC tonight last night, and then we did Tough Talks, and the kid Khalil. We had a cupcake eating contest.
Oh, no.
Oh my God. I was wrecked for the rest of last night because I haven't been eating sugar. And like
Right.
I was, I'm competitive. So I'm just mowing down these cupcakes.
How many did you eat?
So they gave me like smaller ones for the weight class discrepancy. So you had
What?
I know. But you know what? Actually, it was kind of a disadvantage because I had to peel more of them. I just spent time trying to peel them out. So I think I ate 4, and then my esophagus just shut, and it was like, no more, you're not swallowing another bite of this. So I shoved 3 more in my mouth and just like held them in there like the last 10 seconds. I was like shoving them in my mouth. So I think it was 7, but I spit 3 of them out.
Now, when you say your esophagus shut, was it like you couldn't swallow? Did you have
It
milk?
just didn't. I did have milk, but there was just too much. There wasn't room for milk in my mouth anymore. It was just all cupcake. It was like I couldn't like. It was hilarious. The video's on my Facebook page if you're interested in watching it. It was pretty disgusting, actually.
What did you feel like after it was over?
Oh, I felt terrible, honestly. Like I was like shaking. I was like,
Yeah.
I kind of had a gut ache. I was like, this is a really bad idea.
Isn't that weird that you could have
Yes.
eaten those things like a year ago?
No problem.
No problem.
And then I just mow 4 mini cupcakes, and I'm feeling like garbage.
I was on the diet for a long time, and then I had a cheeseburger and a malt, like a big ass chocolate malt, and it was a huge malt. It was like that big. It was all sugar.
It gets you.
I was wrecked. Like
Sugar's
I
kind of
lay
the
down on the
devil,
couch.
honestly.
It is. Well, you just get used to it. That's the problem. And when you're used to it, your body seems like, this is nothing. So when people, here you are eating a cupcake. eating
Yeah. See, I tried milk. Look at how full my mouth is. Watch. And I'm throwing. They're counting down. I'm like,
Oh, this is
God,
so
keep going, keep going.
ridiculous.
It's so gross.
Oh, that's disgusting.
It's disgusting. It's terrible. Like
I like
see
Kenny
how-
with the referee outfit on.
I have 3 cupcakes in my mouth right now. My lips are literally bursting. Like
See, if this was Fear Factor, we would have made you swallow it and open your mouth. That's the only way it counts.
I would have. Speaking of Fear Factor, I always wanted to do that show. I used to watch it all the time.
I would have talked you out of it.
Like I could eat that disgusting stuff.
You think you could?
I think I could.
Well, you could probably eat some of it.
I'm
I ate
sure I
some
could.
of it. But
Really? I was
yeah.
gonna ask you.
I ate a
What was
bunch
the
of
most
shit.
disgusting thing that they made someone eat? You think?
Blended stuff is the worst. Like
The blended bugs and stuff.
blended pancreas and different disgusting, like blended spleens, and there was some. And you know what's really interesting is one of the ways we made things more disgusting was expensive cheese. Like if you go to, what's it called, a fromager?
Oh,
I
man.
don't remember.
I have an
but
expensive cheese story.
Do you?
Yeah, but go ahead. But
But anyway, they would go to this Beverly Hills store that sells like super expensive, like primo French cheese, and it smells like donkey dick. It's so bad. You open up the tub of it and you go, "What in the fuck is wrong with French people? How are you eating this?"
That's my disgusting stinky cheese story. It was in France. The first time I went to
Oh.
Paris, it was over Valentine's Day, and Brian and I were on this really beautiful dinner boat thing, and they bring out all this food, and we're eating foie gras and like whatever, and they bring out cheese, and I am a cheese lover. Like I love cheese. I could never give up cheese. It's the one I would venture to say, well, especially now for sure, I'd pick cheese over cupcakes. If I had to cut something out of my diet, bye cupcakes. Like I'm sticking with the cheese. Anyways, they bring this cheese out, and there's 3 of them. One is fine. The other one's like, it's a little stinky, but I think I'll try it. The other one smelled like a rotting carcass. I kid you not.
I believe you.
It smelled like someone ran over roadkill, and then they then they served it up like 2 weeks later after it had been like in
Sitting
a
in a trash
steamy
bag.
I was like, people eat this? I'm like, what's wrong with? I was like, get it
No.
away. Wouldn't touch it with a 10-foot pole.
Well, there's a place in Beverly Hills where we used to send the people that work for Fear Factor to buy it, and you'd walk by this place and just they'd open the door and you'd be like, "What in the fuck is in there?" And meanwhile, people are paying a lot of money for this
Oh
stuff.
my God. If it smelled anything like what that smelled like, I might have struggled to eat it.
I bet it was the same stuff. I mean, I don't know what it was called. I would have to call my friend
I would have
David
just plugged
Hurwitz
my
and ask him
nose.
what it's called.
I like to think I'd be able to eat anything. I don't know.
Well, you're pretty mentally tough.
That's the
I'm
thing.
sure you could get through it, and then
I'm
after
sure
it
I
was
could.
over, you probably blank out
Yeah.
that section of your mind that deals with that and just go into the zone, throw it in, and then you're like, "Am I good?" Yeah, and then you'd run over to a garbage pail and bah! That's what happened. I saw more people throw up than probably. I would say, like, if you like look at me and like maybe cafeteria lunch ladies, we've probably seen the most people throw up in the world.
Oh, I bet.
I saw fucking people throw up every week. I saw people throw up. I became completely immune to throw up.
You know what I think would be more gross than the blended stuff? I feel like as long as there was enough liquid to be able to just swallow it, I think I could get through it. But I think what would be hard for me is the crunchy bugs.
They're easy.
Really? Well,
Bugs
for me,
don't taste
'cause
like anything.
Yeah, but it's not the taste.
Texture?
Not the texture, the sound. The sound of it, like the shell crunching and then like the guts exploding. I don't know.
We were just talking
like
about
this is a disgusting topic.
No,
but
it's
that's
not.
like
It's
my,
fine.
that's like that or the big old caterpillars, like where they'd pop in your
Oh,
mouth.
yeah.
Like hearing something like that, I think is what would get me.
I ate a tomato hornworm. That wasn't the best tasting thing in the world.
No,
That
yeah.
one popped in my mouth.
Yeah, see, that's those things. I think that would be a little hard for me.
But it's nothing. It's like that gum. Remember that gum they used to have that have like the squirt center? It's good for your breath. You remember that stuff?
Yes.
Do they still have that stuff?
I'm sure they do.
That gum is like a tomato hornworm. You pop it, except it doesn't taste good when it squirts. It just tastes like, but it does. It's like neutral.
That would be a struggle for me. That's just my thing. I don't know.
Yeah.
That's my thing is like anticipating the pop and then or the crunch.
I'm telling you, you would just do it. I'm telling
Yeah, I
you,
probably
it's
would.
nothing. The bugs are nothing. I was in Mexico recently, and they would serve crickets. They have crickets like it was a snack that they left in the hotel,
Yeah.
like fried crickets.
I don't know. I guess if I could do it at my own pace and I like they were cooked crickets, I'd probably try one.
Yeah, but it's not.
pretty
Fear
adventurous.
Factor's not at the own pace.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
half the thing.
That
is
would be the thing.
that you only have a certain amount
I
of time.
remember one where they stuck like one of those, I don't know, it was like those spiders with like super long legs. And it
Yes.
was like trying to crawl out of the person's mouth while they were eating it. And that
African-
was just like, oh my God. That would be,
African cave dwelling spider. I ate
Yeah.
one of those too.
really?
Yeah, I ate a lot of shit.
While it's alive? You
Oh
just, like-
yeah, threw it in there, chew it up.
can they bite you?
They tried.
Really?
Yeah, I felt like a little pincher on my lip, but
Are you serious?
yeah, but I'm death.
You just mowed it.
Well, yeah, I mean,
Got
look,
down on
if
them
it's
like I
between
got down
me
on
and a
those
spider.
cupcakes.
You imagine being a poor spider, just some fucking gag for a TV show, and someone's gonna eat you.
No.
But yeah, the most bugs don't taste like anything. I bet the ones that are really bad are poisonous.
Yeah.
They probably would fuck with you. Like if you ate a black widow, it probably tastes like shit.
Nobody ever had to eat like a live snake or anything like that, did
No. Well, we can't
Like, do
give
anything
any.
with animals?
We did do some stuff with snakes. It was really interesting on what people would get upset about and what people wouldn't get upset about. Like the PETA would get really upset if we did things with rats
Yeah.
or things with rodents
Yeah.
were particularly problematic. But people didn't get upset about things with bugs. It's like there's a really clear hierarchy that people have with life, and people just don't seem to get that upset about bugs. But like certain animals
I kind of still almost feel bad if I was to eat a live bug. A part of me would feel bad.
Really?
Yeah. I don't know.
What about like lobster and throw lobster in a pot?
Oh, I feel bad about that too.
Do you?
Oh yeah. I prefer to just kill it real quick first, and then I'm fine with it. Like
Yeah.
I think they're meant to be eaten. I'm fine. Like with hunting, it doesn't bother me. Like, but the idea of them maybe experiencing a excruciating amount of pain before, like
Right.
just like stab it in the
Suffering.
head real quick, and then it's dead. You killed it humanely, and then eat it. No problem. I
Right.
don't care about that, but
They say that lobsters can't feel pain, but
They
I say bullshit.
I say bullshit too. How do you know? You're not a lobster. Have you ever been a lobster? No.
In a past life,
Yeah.
I was pate.
So I just say err on the side of caution. Just kill it first. Like,
Yeah.
we used to go crabbing up in the San Juan Islands. We'd catch fresh Dungeness crabs.
Oh, yeah.
my God. We cook
Those
it
are so
within like an
good.
hour.
They taste
Oh
so
my
much better that way. It's incredible, isn't
Oh,
it?
yeah. Brian
Yeah.
can't eat seafood to save his life at all. Like he cannot stomach it.
Like
And he-
fish? Like you can't
at
like
all.
eat salmon?
Anything out of the
Really?
water. anything, even like seaweed,
What?
anything that comes from the
Psychologically,
ocean.
or
I think part of it's psychological. He just doesn't like it at all. He thinks it tastes disgusting. Like the taste of the ocean, like you get a lot in fish skin or like seaweed, like anything that tastes resembles the flavor of the ocean, something watery, he hates it.
is he from Washington State too?
Yeah.
So is it like an overdose of fish because everybody's up there eating fish all the time?
No, because he lived in like the central Washington area, right on the other side of the mountains. So it's a little more like greeny and dry and a little bit farther away from the water. But he ate Dungeness crab. This was going to get back to is that the crab that we caught that day and killed and boiled, and we had this sweet butter to dip it. Well, yeah, actually, like he ate it and was like, yeah, it was pretty good. That's the only seafood thing he's ever eaten in his life that he
What is
actually
this,
got
Jamie?
along with.
What's this video you're showing me?
Video of swarming crabs on a seafloor.
What?
Have you ever seen this?
Oh my God, is that real?
Thousands and thousands
gosh.
of crabs.
You
Where
can't
is
even see
this?
the floor.
Is off the coast in Panama, it says.
Holy shit! What kind of crabs are these? Does it say?
Red crabs.
Red crabs.
I don't know
never
the
had
difference,
that.
but
And they're just covering the floor like
Yeah.
sand.
Mm-hmm.
That's insane.
they didn't. When I read this, they said they didn't know what it was. They thought it was just the moving sand on the ground until they got like to put light on it, and then they saw that it was crabs.
Crabs.
Wow. Are they little tiny crabs? Is that what it
I
is?
don't think so.
They look actually like, I bet you they'd be pretty big.
Crabs are the cleanup crew. Crabs and lobster. It's interesting how good they taste when you consider what they do. They
What
just
they
basically eat rotten things that like sharks leave behind, other fish leave behind, and I mean they're just the cleanup crew.
Yeah, we're like gotta be grass fed beef, but we can eat shit eating
Yeah.
crabs.
Now, like that's so crazy that Brian doesn't eat any seafood because I would imagine
No.
that like especially considering that he cuts so much weight, like that would be like a good source of lean protein.
Nada.
It's fish.
Like his friends like wanted to mess with him one time, and he was at a restaurant, and one of them had salmon. Brian's like one of those guys like doesn't even want to look. Like if you're eating seafood, he doesn't want to look.
What?
He does. He's just so grossed out about it. And so he got up to like, go to the bathroom, and I guess I wasn't there. I wasn't dating him, but this was a long time ago. I guess they picked up a piece of the salmon and like rubbed it all over the rim of his cup of milk.
And he smelled it.
And then threw it, like he went to take a sip, and he just like lost it because he smelled it, and I don't know.
Did someone like force feed him a fish when he was a little kid or something?
I don't know. I kind of wonder. Something traumatic had to have happened.
Eddie Bravo's got a weird thing like that.
Really?
Like, yeah, onions. If you give him onions, he'll fucking freak out.
What if they're cooked?
I don't think he can even eat them cooked.
Really?
Yeah, apparently he had a douchebag for a stepdad, and his stepdad used to make him eat ceviche, and the onions in the ceviche to this day, like, just
Bother
freak him
him?
the fuck out. He can't have onions. Like, if
I
he,
have a thing with that, with the chocolate flavored things.
what?
Yeah.
What about cupcakes?
No. Cannot do
You can't have chocolate cupcakes? Really?
No, I don't like them. I don't
What?
Like,
How the fuck do you not like chocolate?
I don't like chocolate ice cream. I don't like, but I like milk
Does
chocolate
this
or dark
freak
chocolate.
You out? Looking at that, does that freak you out?
No,
The chocolate?
No, I'm okay with this. As long as it's not anything chocolate flavor. It has to be real chocolate. It can't be anything. It's such a weird thing. But the thing is, I was really sick when I was a little girl. I was like 5 or 6 years old. I almost died. I went to the hospital. I had to get a spinal tap because all my veins had collapsed. I was so
What?
Yeah, I got really, really sick.
What was it?
I had Rye syndrome.
I don't know what that is.
I don't remember really exactly the details about it either.
RYE, like the bread?
I don't know. Look it up really quick. It's
If
bad
it
though.
almost killed you. It was
Chicken pox, and then I had a form of hepatitis.
Whoa.
Hepatitis B. That's what I had.
Whoa.
All three at the same time because my immune system was down from the chicken pox, and then I caught that, and then I caught hepatitis B, and yeah. So my parents took me obviously to the hospital, and they had a phobia of needles for a while too. They got an IV in me barely, and you know how like they're supposed to leave the IV in you, and then like they change the tubing. Well, the stupid nurse pulled it out, and all my veins were so collapsed they couldn't get a needle in anymore. So they would come in. I was just passed out. They would come in on the hour, almost on the hour, and I would wake up to like 10 or 15 people holding me down. Oh, it felt like 10 or 15. I was 5. It was probably like 3 people. But I'd just see lights and I'd see people holding me down, and they'd be trying to stick needles in the top of my hand, in my ankles, in the tops of my feet, behind my knees, and they'd just hold me down, trying to get fluids in me because I couldn't keep anything down.
Whoa.
And so finally it was so bad that they told my mom to like call, if she's religious, to call like her pastor and like have him come, and like they were like,
Jesus Christ.
yeah, like she's gonna, so they brought me in to give me a spinal tap. Oh my God, it was the most painful thing I've ever experienced in my life because they take fluid out. An epidural's, like, I hear, really painful too, but it's an injection as opposed to like removing the fluid, which is more painful. I don't know. I remember feeling the most excruciating pain in my life and then passing out. Wow. I was so weak. Anyways, it was pretty terrible. Anyways, back to the chocolate part of it. Before I went to the hospital, I was running such a bad fever and I was throwing up, and my mom thought, you know, let's give her ice cream. And she had like some Neapolitan ice cream downstairs. And it was like the really cheap kind. I didn't grow up, you know, with a lot of money or anything like that. We struggled. So it was like the cheap fake strawberry, the cheap vanilla, and the really shitty cheap chocolate. And I had tried to eat some of the strawberry and the vanilla, and I fell asleep, and I woke up and I was really hungry and really thirsty, and I went, and all the chocolate had melted. So it was like a soupy bowl of warm ice cream, and I tried to take a bite of it because it's just a little kid, and I lost my shit. I puked everywhere, and to this day, it's ruined it for me. Like, ruined anything chocolate flavored. But I can do like dark chocolate, a real chocolate, but it has to be quality.
So if somebody brings you like a soupy bowl of Neapolitan ice cream right now, you would just
yeah. It's yeah. It has mentally fucked me forever.
Look at the definition. Jamie, pull that back up again, please. Look at the definition of Reye's disease. I mean, look at this. Rare but serious condition that causes swelling in the liver and the brain.
Yeah, I had liver damage. Like they said, it was permanent. So I don't know.
Whoa. Most often affects children and teenagers recovering from a viral infection, most commonly the flu or chickenpox. Well, that's amazing.
I didn't even know that. Before. I never looked it up, but I knew that I had some liver damage. They actually told me
Aspirin's been linked to this. Look at this. Use caution when giving aspirin to children and teenagers.
And that's exactly when that's why that happened, because my mom told me she called the hospital and asked them, like, my daughter has chickenpox. What should I give her, whatever. And they're like, oh, just give her aspirin. You know, give her some aspirin to help her with that. And that's what caused that. And then it was just bad. It was really, really bad.
It's so weird that it's connected to aspirin. I wonder what the fuck the factor is.
I didn't even know that, actually, but I just know that, like, that I had that and then I had liver damage. They actually told me that I would probably never be able to excel as an athlete because of that.
Because of your liver damage?
Yeah, because of the liver, and like, I don't know, if maybe that's why I'm like, so maybe
you should show up at
maybe
the
I
office.
shouldn't blame my lack of paying attention to situations and knowledge of things. I can never remember people's names. Maybe I always say, oh, I get punched in the head for a living. Maybe it was that, like brain damage and liver damage.
All those things can't be great, but if anybody said that you would never make it as an athlete,
yeah, they told me like, yeah, exactly,
like, what's up
right?
now,
the
bitch?
Doctors were like, yeah, she's probably gonna always have an issue as an athlete to excel. Now,
have you ever got like a liver toxology examination or something like that?
No, I never had.
Seems like it'd be a good idea to do.
You know, my mom always told me, she's like, you should do visualization of your liver healing itself. So I used to try to like envision my liver like growing.
Oh, you had
healing.
one of those moms.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, she was. She never told me to visualize anything else, but I remember that now. This is bringing back memories. She's like, you should try to, think about your liver being healthy. I don't know if it helps. But I use visualization now a lot.
Visualization absolutely is beneficial.
Yeah.
I mean, the mind has all sorts of weird properties that we don't totally understand. That's why placebo effects work. Mm-hmm. We don't know why they work, but it does work. And it's statistically proven that if you have a positive attitude and you believe something can help you, it can help you.
Yep.
But the problem with that is people use that as like an excuse for charlatans like psychics and palm readers and tarot card readers and healers. Like healers are a big one. Mm-hmm. There was a guy that was working with a bunch of UFC fighters back in the day that people would call like the witch doctor. And this guy was like doing all these like these things. Do you remember George St. Pierre? Mm-hmm. Not do you remember George St. Pierre?
I'm like,
obviously.
Of course.
But do you remember George St. Pierre? They had this thing that they used to do with him where they would like rub his back and rub his sternum. They had
but I never understood what it was.
Yeah, it was like this voodoo shit that this guy had talked these people into doing. Like a bunch of fighters. Like even fucking Randy Couture was going to this guy.
Really?
Yeah, and the guy turned out to be a total hoax. I met him and I just like right away because I'm so used to hoaxers. I'm so used to being around bullshit artists and examining them. As soon as he started talking about like the meridians of the body and this and that, I was like, oh, you're full of shit. You're full of shit and you got deep in with these people. You're rubbing on them and you're opening up their chakras. Yeah. Oh, fucking for sure you are.
Well, it's like those people that do the funny like chi videos. I feel like it's like a cult almost sometimes. These people, and they're like, I can make someone flip over by just doing this or like whatever. They do the weirdest things, and the people that they convince to like, it takes two to do that, obviously, because it's not real.
Right.
So the person doing it and the person getting the move or whatever done to have to, that person has to agree to do it.
Yeah.
And then it's always so funny to me when you see them get approached by someone who doesn't believe in that at all.
And
they're
get
like,
fucked up.
They're like, okay, do it to me. And they're like, okay. And they really like think that it's going to work. And the person's just standing there and they're like, no, it's not working. They're like, it's not working. Oh, you know?
Well, they
weird,
think it's
right?
going to work. They think
They
it is going to
do.
work. Like even the bullshit artist thinks it's going to work.
Or you ever see the guy that was like trying to chop, what was it? Those, not a pineapple. I want to say pineapple, but a coconut. Trying to chop with like his hand. He was trying to set like a world record. You guys should pull that video up. It's
For
hilarious.
chopping coconuts?
With his hand, with his bare hand. He was like a karate guy. He
Did he
like
break his
chopped the
hand?
boards. I think he might have.
Yeah, I
Did
don't
you
think
do,
you could
like-
break a coconut with your hand.
No, and it was funny because he had like a news crew there, and he had like 20 coconuts set out on like this bar, and he starts just hacking at one. Yes, and it like, well, you watch the video. It's hilarious. I mean,
Why
I'm
does this
like,
guy think that this would work?
he's one of these guys. I'm telling
Oh,
you.
he's got a karate outfit on.
And look at there's a metal bar underneath that. So watch when he misses.
Oh no, he misses.
Well, yeah.
Oh, fail. He does miss. Oh my god, he hits the fucking fail. Fail. Oh my god, he hits the bar.
Look, his hand's hurting.
Oh yeah, for sure. He had to pull away. That dude's
He doesn't
hands
want to do it again. He doesn't want
whacked.
to, but he's like, I got to. And he's like, okay, no. She stepped in, thank God.
Why was he thinking that would work? Wouldn't you practice that before you got on television? Like, you imagine thinking that you could karate chop a fucking coconut open. How about just hit the earth and wake up people in China? What the fuck is wrong with you?
That's what I'm saying, though. So, yes, the mind is a very powerful thing.
Well, there's a gang of videos of these guys that are doing those chi things on people, and then their students fall to the ground and start twitching. And and there's a great one with this guy in Harlem had this like a kung fu school, and he had all these students, and he's like doing all this like literally like Dragon Ball Z type shit on them, like and they would fall to the ground and start twitching and spasming, and it's like really shitty acting, but they are into it. I think when you're in a cult like that, and that's what a lot of those martial arts are. They are a cult.
Yeah.
I think almost all traditional martial arts have cult-like attributes, which can be beneficial, like the discipline and the desire to please your sensei or your sabum nim or whatever you want to call them is like intense. And you know, yes sir, and they bow and all this stuff, and they really believe that their instructor cannot do any harm. There's like a lot of good in that, because it makes you like have this really intense desire to succeed and this intense belief in yourself, but it's not realistic, obviously, in a lot of traditional martial arts. And until the UFC came around, we didn't really know how unrealistic it was.
Yeah.
But if you remember, like Pat Smith, when he fought that ninja guy in like UFC 1 or 2, I think it was UFC 2. I don't remember which one it was, but he fought some guy, and this guy was doing these like you remember they used to have the video of the guy training before the fight, and the guy was like throwing all these techniques around and flipping people to the ground and grabbing their neck and fucking karate chopping the top of their head, and they'd fall to the ground.
Oh, the UFC has come a long way.
Long way in a short amount of time, right? I mean, think about like football from '93.
Yeah.
And then football in 2016. It kind of looks like football.
Right.
Still the same.
Yeah.
But the UFC in 93, like, look at it. It's like,
Insane.
it's chaos. But Pat Smith was like a real fighter. This is the guy. Look at it. He just came charging at Pat Smith and tried to, I don't know why he clinched up with him.
I
You
remember this guy. I just know his name.
And Pat Smith got on top of him, and he just dropped
Yeah.
elbows on him and smashed this poor dude's head open. It was awful.
Look, those 12-6s were still allowed then.
12-6 is the dumbest fucking rule.
Don't
Here's
get me
this
started.
poor guy. Look at this. And this is the best part about it. Pat Smith walks off, and the fight's not done because he's a kind man for walking off, because the referee is saying the fight's still going on.
Are you serious?
Yeah. Because
this poor guy.
yeah, that guy got smashed. But
What's this guy's name again? Oh, no.
we don't even need to bring up this poor guy's name. But he probably thought it was Big John McCarthy, all lean and healthy looking. He probably thought that it was real. He probably thought that what he was doing was real, and he didn't know until he got in there with a guy like Pat Smith that what he was doing was just some malarkey, some strip mall malarkey. There's a lot of that out there still to this day. It's amazing.
Yeah, it kind of makes you wonder sometimes the world that we live in. It's like,
Well, it's that same, it's the mind, like the belief in what you can do, what you can't do. Like, it can benefit you, but it can also fuck you up. Like, it can benefit you if you're talking about your own health. Like, if you really believe that something's healing you, it can heal you. But there's, like, physical limitations, you know? Like, if you
100%.
believe that Melvin Manhoof can kick you in the liver and nothing's going to happen, guess what?
Or
That's
if
not
you
true.
think you can chop coconuts with your hand.
Oh, that guy. There's
No,
so
my
many of those
gosh.
people, though. So many of those weirdo...
One of the first podcasts I ever listened to of yours was a guy talking about a cult that he had been involved in. I can't remember his name either, but it was really fascinating. He was talking about his story and how they basically took him in, and you remember what I'm talking about?
Oh, yeah, Steve Hassan. Yeah, he's
Hassan.
actually a cult... Is that how you say his last name? Hassan?
Fascinating, though.
Yeah, he's
and how
actually...
they really warped his mind.
Mhm.
Like, he really got into believing that his family was against him, and like now that he's removed from it, he's like, I was totally mind manipulated.
Yeah, he's in the Moonies. He was in the Moonies. That's what he joined up with.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a weird story because that guy now works to help people get out of cults.
Well,
You know?
he should go help some of these hey, gee, people.
I know. I'm sure you've seen the one with the old Asian man who fights the young karate guy. Have you ever seen that one? This guy, they show him with his students, and he's doing all this hi-ya stuff, and they go flying across the room, and their body twitches. And he decides to have an actual no-rules fight with this young Kyokushin guy. And this Kyokushin guy just fucks him up, grabs a hold of his shirt and beats his face in and high kicks him. And it's so brutal because the man looks like he's like in his late 60s.
Yeah.
He looks pretty old.
Yeah.
And not stout. And it's not like, a healthy old 60 either. He looks like he's got a little pot belly, and this dude just beats the piss out of him.
Oh.
And a guy like a beating like that from a young, strong guy who was much bigger than him too. The guy looked like much stronger than him. Like, that's not something that old guy's going to recover from. Like, he might be fucked forever from this.
That's terrible.
But in his mind, he
believed it.
thought that he was going to fucking kung fu this dude.
Do you believe it? Like, have you ever researched much about hypnosis and how?
I've been hypnotized.
Yeah.
Yeah. Vinny
Are you a fan
Shorman
of
did
it?
it. Well, Vinny Shorman, I don't know if you know who he is. He works with a lot of fighters. He worked with Joe Schilling. He's worked with a lot of MMA fighters. And he does what he calls himself a mind trainer. And what he does is he can talk to you and put you in a state of mind. It's a very weird thing. Like, it's not what people think it is. It's not like, take off your pants, now suck my dick. It's not like that. Like, you're aware, kind of, but it's like an altered state of consciousness. It's almost like he puts you in like it's like you're under a drug or something like that.
So I just recorded a podcast. I just started my own podcast, and
What is it? How do people find it, Miesha Tate?
The Miesha Tate Show.
Get the fuck out of here! What'd you come up with that name?
I don't know, man. Thought to think about that one a lot.
How about the Cupcake Hour?
Right, the Cupcake Hour, yeah. So I sat down with Mark Savard, who does a comedy hypnosis show. He's been doing it for like 10 years on the Strip. And absolutely fascinating when you think about the conscious mind and the subconscious mind, and how the conscious mind really is kind of the tip of the iceberg, but there's so much more beneath it. And your subconscious mind is, we're talking about how the power of mind. And he says you kind of go in and out of hypnosis states all the time. Like when you're driving and you start daydreaming, or you're sitting, you just kind of space out. You're not really looking at whatever you're looking at anymore. You're in a daydream.
Yeah.
Or at night, that's kind of a state of an awake hypnosis, and that you can kind of go in and out of those yourself. You do all the time during the day, but a hypnotist can kind of guide you into that and then plant certain good seeds, I guess are bad seeds if they wanted to, but I always thought of that too, like a kooky guy that was going to like make you do dumb shit while you don't know what you're doing. But that kind of was fascinating to me because he talks about how he helps people who have like phobias, for instance, someone who has a phobia of a dog. He's like, so fear is like, one dog, this dog bit you when you were a child, you're scared of that dog. Phobia is this dog bit you and you're scared of all dogs now. Some people are so terrified, they get these phobias, they can't even leave their house. Like they're so scared of their neighbor's dog walking by and that's going to jump out of anywhere and bite them. Mm-hmm. So they're crippled by these fears, and he could put them in a hypnotic state and kind of go back and remove that fear, essentially.
That makes sense. I mean, I think that there's, as he said, there's a bunch of layers to the mind.
Yeah.
But I think that one of the most fascinating aspects of it is when they do those comedy hypnotism shows. those comedy hypnotism shows are 100% real.
Yeah.
Like, I've seen them live. Like, there was a guy named Frank Santos, who's a big comedy hypnotist guy in Boston, and his son still does it, Frank Santos Jr. But Frank Santos would do this weekly show at Stitches, and all these comedians, we would come from like all over the town to watch this because we couldn't believe it. We'd be like, how the fuck is he doing this? And he would get people, and he would know when they were under and when they weren't under. Like, he would know when people were faking it and when they weren't, and he would get them off the stage when they were faking it. But the people that were really under, you could see they just were baffled. And he couldn't explain why it would work on some people and why it wouldn't work on others. He didn't really know.
Yeah. I asked Mark the same question because he'll invite as many people that want to volunteer out of the audience as you want. So he'll get 30 plus people up there and he'll just pick people off as they aren't into it. But he has people doing the craziest funny things, you know.
Yeah, and it's
so funny.
It's bizarre because you're like, how are all these people in on this? Well, they're not. They really do. Like this, Frank Santos used to have this person. This is like in the 80s, back when Madonna was hot. Like, if you said you're going to have sex with Madonna now, guys would go, hey, what the fuck? But back in the 80s.
She still looks good for her age.
For her age.
She does.
That's the big part, for her age.
Yeah.
Right? She still looks great. I mean, no, but everyone knows. Even if she looks great, everyone knows that bitch is like 60. Like, you know, like.
Yeah.
I say bitch with all due respect, Miss
Yeah,
Madonna.
like a bad bitch.
Yeah, badass bitch. But you would watch him, like, he would talk someone into believing that they were having sex with Madonna, and these guys would orgasm in their pants. So, like, you would see them go, like,
crazy.
he would tell them, and, you know, now you're going to come in your pants. And you'd see the guy go, and, like, and when you're watching it, you'd be like, what in the fuck? Is this real? You almost want to go, dude, I want to see inside your underwear. Let's see it.
Yeah, let's see if it really worked.
I want to see if it worked. It was.
Let's see the proof in the pudding.
But Frank tried to explain it to us, and he had worked with people where he would help people quit smoking and things along those lines. But until Vinny Shorman did it to me, I had no idea. I was like,
so I still haven't been hypnotized, but I think I'm gonna try it.
Well, he's going to be in the United States. I'll connect you guys together.
Okay.
You would like it because he's used to working with fighters, and he's great about like setting a mindset. I think Ian McCall worked with him too, but he's great about putting you in a certain state of mind and working on various aspects of like maybe your performance or your attitude.
That's what I'm
maybe
interested in.
Yeah, it's interesting. Well, that's all about staying woke. Miesha Tate,
woke.
stay woke.
I've been woken.
He's trying to woke you.
I want some wokeness.
You got to achieve wokeness. It's super, super important to achieve wokeness. Yeah, I mean, the mind is a really fascinating thing, and I think that especially for fighters, I would have to say that it's just one of the most important aspects of your ability to perform. Like, physically is one thing, but the ability to, like, you're inside the cage, the pin goes into the gate. Are you ready? Are you ready? Let's get it on. I mean, that is the craziest moment in all of sports. There's no moment like that where think about like a basketball player. Basketball players, even if there's a lot of pressure for a three-point shot, if you miss that three-point shot, you're going to get another shot. Somewhere in the game, someone's going to hand you the ball, luckily. Or if not, someone's going to hand you the ball tomorrow. Or someone will hand you the ball next week. But if you fight, you know,
well, there's a huge difference between team sports and individual sports too.
Yeah, for sure.
So, I mean, it's like when you lose, sometimes it's not, unless you're the kicker on a football team, and like you literally cost them. But it's still like it's still a team sport. Your team obviously didn't get you far enough to where you had to rely on that kick. But you go inside the cage, it is just you. It's
not just you. It's just you involved in the most humbling, dangerous, extreme version of a contest between two human beings you can get outside of sword fighting.
Yep.
You know, outside of fighting to the death, there's nothing as extreme as a cage fight.
Yeah.
When you guys,
so I always say, I have to laugh when people say like that we're scared to fight someone. You know, like people are like, "Oh, you're scared to fight Holly again." Like,
you can't listen to those people.
Scared is not a relative. Like, it's not a term that I feel like fighters really. We don't have scared the way normal people have scared. You know, like a normal person would be scared to get off their couch and go to the gym, you know, to spar or something. Like, that's what we do. Like, we live like what most people would, you know, shit their pants to do on a daily basis.
And you would have to be a fool to not know that it's a dangerous fight. So it's not a matter of not being aware of the danger.
Yeah.
But it's a matter of managing the consequences. Like, I think you did a fantastic job of the Holly fight. Like, literally, you did in that fight other than the 5th round, which is the most amazing part of it, but you did everything. Like, when we were talking about like what you have to do to beat her, I'm like, she's got to stay on the outside, she's got to vary her rhythm, and she's got to let Holly come to her. Like, she can't rush in, because if you rush into Holly, it's like rushing into Machida or rushing to anybody who's a great counter striker. You saw the Ronda fight. Ronda just came bulldogging at her and tried to out bulldog her, and you can't do that with Holly. She's too fast.
Too good at footwork too.
Her striking is so precise. Her counters are so clean,
and her movement's very hard to read. Like, it's very unpredictable. I remember a couple times I tried to maybe come forward and get her to the fence, and I couldn't tell whether she was going to jet out to the right or the left. Like, she was just like 2 steps back, left, and I was like, ah, I was like, like I couldn't even tell. Like, she gave no indication of which way she was going to go.
Yeah. Well, you just did a fantastic job of varying your approach too. Your speed was different. Like, you did a lot of feinting. You varied things up a lot, and you could tell like she was like almost like waiting for these moments to happen when you're going to come forward, and then you wouldn't come forward, and then it becomes like a test of patience. Like, who's going to get outside of their comfort zone? Who's going to take chances? Who's gonna engage?
Yeah.
And she also has that weird stance too, where she kind of halfway stands like a boxer and halfway stands like a karate person.
Yeah.
She throws like a lot of side kicks, a lot of front leg techniques.
Yeah. She's a tricky one, but we put together a really good game plan. I was happy with that.
Fuck yeah, you did.
I was happy with that.
But it was the 5th round. The 5th round was crazy. God, when you grabbed a hold of her and then eventually got her back and got her to the ground, it was so crazy because every aspect from your initial entrance to the takedown to getting her back, there was nothing 100% about it. It was all touch and go. It was all a scramble. It wasn't like you had complete total control of her, like maybe like Damian Maia versus Rick Story. Like, Damian Maia gets Rick Story's back. He's got him locked up, and then he anacondas him and squeezes him, and then he gets him. It wasn't like that. It was like you were fighting for your fucking life, and you knew. There was no time. There was no time. You were likely down by like at least 1 round, and you were headed into the 5th and final round. And maybe if you won that round, you could have got the decision. But fuck, you're fighting the champ. Yeah. Who knows? Who knows what's going to happen? You take her back, and then when she tries to shake you off the top, and you hang in there, and you see her, you like, and I watched, I'm like, oh my God, she's going to go out. And when she went out and you climbed off her and she was unconscious, like, holy shit. Holy shit, what a moment. That was incredible. It was incredible. It was one of the best moments in all of women's championship fighting, as far as like an extremely dramatic moment where like you're trying to accomplish something. She's fighting tooth and claw. Neither one of you are exhausted, so it's not like anyone's like physically compromised. It's just a fucking mad scramble between 2 killers, and you get her, and you got her back, and then you get her back, and you sink the choke in, and she's trying to fucking shake you off, and you hung in there, and when she rolled, and you're on top of her, and you hung on to it, and you realize like, oh my God, she's going out.
Yeah.
And she didn't even tap. She was throwing punches in the air while you were choking her unconscious.
I kept thinking to myself, I'm like, when is she going to tap? It didn't. In that instinctual moment, I'm so used to in training, you get people in a choke, they tap. So I'm waiting for that tap, and I'm like, good God, like, when is this girl gonna tap? Like, I know I've got her. When is she gonna, tap? And then I felt her and I saw her, from my peripherals kind of do something. I wasn't quite sure if she was tapping or what she was doing until I watched the video later. And then I felt him pull me off, and I'm like, that's the feeling that we fight for. Is that feeling that feeling of like, I did it. I established my dominance. It's a prideful sport in some ways. It's hand-to-hand combat with someone else. It's like, I did it tonight. I was better.
It has to be prideful, because otherwise there's just certain sacrifices and certain fires that you're not going to walk through. Like, you have to have every fucking motivation. You have to be zen, but you also have to have an ego. There has to be so many things going on for you to achieve that highest level of greatness.
It's like walking on a tightrope.
There's
people that are just like that perfect balance. They're walking between buildings that are, hundreds of stories high, or, and then it's like it's kind of like that. I mean, you have to have the perfect balance, and everything has to meet perfectly in that moment, including the training camp, not overtraining. Did you ever hear that video? That the video is not that good, but the audio is awesome. It's between the 4th and 5th round, and it's my corners. What they're telling me between the 4th and 5th round. It's such an emotional video for me. When I watched it, it makes me relive that moment. And Brian came in there, and essentially he was like, Miesha, you've got to get after her. You have got to put your chin down and Mike Tyson this chick. And that basically means just get after her. Like, get in there, get after it, take the risk, risk getting knocked out, go for broke. And it goes, plays into the round. And basically he was just telling me, like, fucking Mike Tyson her, like, get after her, bulldog her, do whatever you've got to do. He's like, because you're running out of time. And I remember in that 5th round still trying to get out of that mindset of like, I have to find the perfect opportunity. I have to be patient, because the whole training camp was, patient but persistent. Patient but persistent. And don't run into anything, because you'll get caught, you get knocked out, you'll get kneed, you'll get kicked, you'll get punched. So don't do that, but you got to look for the opening when it's the right timing. It's all about timing. And after I took her down in that 2nd round and I just beat her up that round, she was so cautious in the 3rd and 4th, and so perfect. Her game plan was perfect too, to beat me, to stay just far enough out of the range and keep me from not wanting to come in. I couldn't find a perfect opening. I couldn't like get in on anything. There wasn't mistakes that she was making. And then in the 5th round, I just decided, you're going to have to take the chance of getting knocked out. This is what it's boiling down to now. You've got like 3 minutes left on the clock, and now it's do or die. It's either you go in there, you go for it, you do rush in, she catches you, you get knocked out, you gave it everything you got, or you got to make something happen. You got to finish the fight.
The question was really like whether the 2nd round was a 10-8 round.
On all 3 judges' scorecards, it was.
Yeah,
well,
watching it.
That's what the judges said.
Yeah,
yes.
well, it should have been, but what I meant was the question watching it was like when you were headed into the 5th round. What my question was I wonder if she got a 10-8 round for that 2nd round, because if she did, then this is an even fight. So what's happening right now? Like how are the judges looking at it? Or,
technically, going into the 5th round, it was even. Yeah, it was tied.
That's crazy. That was such a crazy moment. That was another time in the post-fight interview where I almost cried like a bitch. I get so emotional.
Yeah, it was incredible.
Well, it's so it's hard to explain to someone when you're there and you get to see someone like you who's worked so hard for something for so long. So when I said to you, like, how does that sound? Like, what does it sound like? You're the new women's bantamweight champion of the world. Like, what does that sound? And you were just so overwhelmed. It was so crazy, like, just to be right next to you while you were saying that. And when you said, "I've been waiting for you to say that for so long," it was a crazy moment. Crazy.
Yeah, because what's crazy? You talk about the mind and the power of it. I had visualized that moment so many times that I felt like I was confused in that it was hard for me to distinguish that was the real moment.
I would imagine it was so intense.
It was so weird, so surreal.
I would imagine that to this day it probably seems fake.
Yeah, it's really weird.
Does it?
Yeah, sometimes I have to go back and be like, man, it really happened. It really happened.
Right there.
Oh, I was pumped.
Jay, think?
Yeah.
Look
I was
at that.
so excited.
If you had if auras were real, like fucking, if you had chi, it was coming off your body for sure.
I would have blown back the whole stadium.
Yeah,
everyone would have fallen over and been shaking.
Papers flying, cups flying through the air, and the carpet would rip.
Goodness gracious.
Yeah, that was
the best one of the best moments of my life for sure.
Oh, I could only imagine. I mean, anyone that watches that sport, that moment when you choked her out, and in the whole exchange of the film, like, even like that, really the whole fight, because a fight is like, in a weird way. We call this martial arts, and there's a lot of people that have a problem with that. But in my mind, that there is an art to what you guys did in that fight, and even what Holly did, because up until that 5th round, like you said, especially the 3rd and 4th, she was doing what she wanted to do. She was, and there was a display going on. There was a performance going on top of this being a competition. To watch it, as someone sitting there watching it and calling it, this is a work of art. And to have it end that way is such a masterful performance. It was such a masterpiece moment. And it, to me, is like one of the best moments in MMA, because it's such a fucking hard thing to achieve, to become a champion. And for someone like you, had tried and tried again. You won the title in Strikeforce.
Yeah.
And you're trying and trying again. You're trying to make this happen. And, you think you're getting boxed out. And then the Ronda fight didn't happen after you beat Jessica Ai. And then all of a sudden you have this opportunity, and it comes together in one of the most powerful ways we've ever seen inside the octagon. It was amazing.
Well, thank you. That was quite a great narration of everything that's had to happen to make this come true, And it's crazy because it was the same month, 10 years to the month that I had my first fight.
Wow.
It's been 10 years, yeah. So it's crazy because you think 10 years ago there wasn't even, I mean, women's MMA was a joke. Like it was, I mean, no, to me it wasn't, obviously, but to most people it was a spectacle at best.
Yeah.
It's something they kind of threw on the card as kind of like, oh, ha, ha, watch the chicks fight,
Right.
Hopefully,
until
hopefully
Gina
a tit will
came
pop
along.
out,
That's so true.
It's so
That's
true
so
though,
true.
because they didn't respect us as athletes.
Yeah.
That's the honest truth. That's the uphill battle that it was. Like nobody took it seriously. We didn't make any money. We were fighting for breadcrumbs at best.
What
And
kept you going during those times?
passion, as cliche as it sounds, just the desire to want to be fulfilled, and I felt like that was the most fulfilling thing in my life. It wasn't college. It wasn't. There was nothing else that was as fulfilling as that.
But what is it about fighting that attracted you to it when there wasn't any clear future? Because you were in it at a time.
I didn't think about the future too
You didn't
much
think
early
about
on.
it.
No, I didn't think about it as something that was, this needs to be lucrative for me. This needs to be, coming to something. I was probably 3 years into my career before I even thought that I could maybe actually possibly make a living at this. So it was just something that I was doing to feel alive.
Wow.
Yeah, it was just something that I was doing to make me feel accomplished. You can't put a price on how something makes you feel. A memory, an experience, happiness, those emotions, people say, like the day that they got married, the day that they had their kid, the day, those are like mile markers in people's lives. Like, I guess if you ask someone on their deathbed, what were the moments that made you feel alive? Like, what did your life amount to? What was that, those key markers in your life? And all of my fights have been markers in my life. That's more than most people can say, so I guess it was such a sense of fulfillment, and the fact that it was so hard. It was so hard, and so many people were so against me. I think that made me really determined too, because a lot of people, my grandpa, my dad, my grandpa was really chauvinistic, to be quite honest. He was embarrassed that his granddaughter was a fighter, and he would give my dad a hard time all the time, like, why you let your daughter do that? And he's like, I don't let her do anything. She's her own person. I'm not proud of it, but
Is he still around?
my grandpa, he's not, but he had a big change of heart. When I actually lost my title when I won my title against Marlos Kuhn, and he really became obviously a big fan. He's like, I'm very proud of you. I'm talking to my neighbors about you. He's like, I was wrong, and I lost my fight to Ronda right when he got diagnosed with cancer, and that's eventually what passed away. So I went straight from that fight down to see him, to see how he was doing. And my dad was down there visiting. He lives in Florida, so very, very far away. And I told him, I was like, Grandpa, I was like, I'm really sorry that I didn't win this, when it makes me emotional. I was like, I'm sorry I didn't win this fight for you. And he's like, it doesn't matter. And I think that's the last fight that he ever saw, unfortunately. But, he's like, hey, you had a lot of heart, and I'm still proud of you. So, yeah.
Were you attracted to other extreme sports when you were younger?
No, because I wasn't raised that way. I wasn't raised with extreme sports. My dad still saw me as, he didn't segregate me, I wouldn't say, but he saw me as a little girl. He didn't take me four-wheeling or, riding dirt bikes or anything like that. He took me not downhill mountain biking, but it kind of turned into that. We rode for miles out to a lake with my little brother and a friend of his. And then I remember I was riding back, and there was big rocks and boulders, and my dad and his buddy had downhill mountain bikes made for. I'm riding little street bikes, but they're expecting that I'm just going to be able to I'll just carry it down the hill or whatever. I try to bomb down the same rock hill as them. I eat shit, bad, eat shit. I still have scars on my elbow actually here from when I fell, and I just got up, and my dad says, this is one of the moments I realized you were different. He's like, you just popped up and you're brushed your elbows off. You got back on your bike, bombed down the rest of the hill, and beat all of us home. He's like, you were just crazy. He's like, I never saw anything like it. I thought we were going to have to call medical help. And I thought, because he's like, you ate it hard. And it was like,
So it was just something that was just in you.
I guess.
Just deal.
I don't know. My mom always told me, and this is something I realized when I was talking to Mark, hypnosis, he was telling me about how much children can be affected by people who are negative in their life, people who can, you're never going to amount to anything, and how that can affect the subconscious mind. Having a dad who's like, you suck, you're terrible, you're never going to be anything, how that can create crippling ripple effects that translate on all the way through the rest of that person's life. And I said, well, what if it's the opposite? Like, what if you had a parent that was telling you that you're amazing all the time, that you could do whatever you want, and they really true-heartedly believe in you? He's like, oh yeah, that can be amazing, amazing too. And it made me start thinking, because my mom and we've had a really rough relationship the past 3-4 years or so, maybe longer. It's been a struggle. It's getting better, but I will give her a ton of credit that as a single mom for part of my life growing up, and even not single, she never made me feel like I wasn't capable of doing anything. If anything, she always made me feel like I could be and do whatever I want, and I could be the best at it. Like most people, when I was 5, 6, 7, 8 years old, and I want to be an astronaut. Like every little kid, they're like, yeah, oh, that's, or my grandpa was the first one to be like, that's not realistic. You're not going to be, not going to be an astronaut. My mom was like, no, you will. She's like, you will. Like, if that's what you want to do, that you will. She's like, Miesha, whatever you want to do, you will be the best at it.
Well, I think it's probably good to have both. It's probably good to have someone who wholeheartedly believes in you and someone else who's like doubting you.
Yeah.
So you get sort of like a little motivation to prove them wrong.
Oh,
and to prove the other person right.
Because I feed off of that. I love proving people wrong. Love it.
You're a very even-tempered person, which is very unusual for a fighter. You're very feminine, but you're also very flat.
I'm very relaxed.
Yes. You're very like, this is Miesha. Like, this is how you are. Like,
Woo-soo.
it was when you were on the Ultimate Fighter with Ronda, it was when it was highlighted the most.
Yeah.
Because she's so manic. She gets so hot. And it's one of the reasons why people love her so much is she gets so fucking crazy.
Yeah.
And she's so competitive and angry that, like, when you guys did that wall climbing thing and that she's like, fuck you, and she's giving you the finger, like, you're just like, you're level.
Just
you
brush it off.
But how was that? Was that your whole life you were like that? Or is that something you learned how to do?
I've been pretty easygoing my whole life. The thing is, I don't like to be stressed out, and I don't like to be pissed off, and I don't like to not be happy. So I do everything within my power to not be stressed out. Like, I could be about to miss a flight or have something, and I'm like, well, what can I do now? I'm just like,
right.
And sometimes it's a bad thing because I don't plan ahead enough, or I'm not really good with time management because I don't want to I don't ever want to rush. So even if I'm late to something, I don't like to rush. And sometimes that's a bad thing. I'm not the most organized person because I'm so relaxed about everything that I'm like, no, my taxes, I'll do those later. Like that kind of thing.
That sounds like a great recipe for life, though. I mean,
well, it's
no
nice
one
because
nails it on both ends. No one does. But this way seems good.
Yeah. I save all my tension and stuff, I guess, for when I get inside the cage. But I like to be relaxed. I just like to be chill. I don't like to be pissed off. I don't like to be stressed out. Like, what a miserable life.
Yeah.
I feel like, some people are just angry all the time. I'm like they're like perma Scrooge,
That's
like
true.
They're just all the time angry. I'm like, do you not even realize how bad your life must suck? Like, what if you just like looked at things differently, you'd have a way better life. I'm like, I never want to be that person.
I remember Mike Tyson when he was in his prime, and they asked him about something. And he was talking about being angry. He's like, I'm angry all the time. I'm angry at my dog. I'm angry at everybody. I'm angry at the mailman. Just get the fuck out of my way. Like, when he was in his prime, he was just a ball of fury.
Yeah.
He was just this wrecking machine.
Yeah.
Which is like, a lot of people associate that with being a championship level fighter. Like, almost that you have to have a certain level of discontent. You have to have a certain level of anger to motivate you.
Yeah.
But with you, I think if you could look at like a person's graph, like a sound graph of how they speak, like their whole life, mine would be all over the fucking place. It'd be like up and down, it'd be all crazy. But yours, I feel like it'd be like this, like flat, up and little tiny ups and downs, like very minor ripples, like, like a little bit of like a flat lake where the water comes in a little bit, whoosh, whoosh, but it's nothing fucking crazy. There's no tidal waves, no chaos, no tsunamis.
Yeah.
But you're just flat and steady.
I try to be. Not always. I'm still a woman.
But
I have
that's
my
so
moments.
unusual for a fighter.
Thanks.
Like this flat level sort of way, and I say flat, it almost sounds like a pejorative, but I don't mean it that way. I mean like it's
Even
almost like
keel.
a zen. Like you have a very zen thing going on.
Yeah, that's, I used to have issues with anxiety a little bit when I was in high school, and I would like have my track meets and something, and I would have anxiety attacks. I actually used to have a problem with it. And I guess I've always been a very open-minded person, and I always ask myself questions whenever there's something wrong with myself or, an issue that I'm having. I ask myself, why am I having that? And then it comes full circle, and I was able to answer those questions, and then I've never suffered from anxiety since. So I kind of put myself in a Zen state of mind early on in my career because I hated it so much. It's like, I don't want to live having anxiety issues. Like, why do I have that? Why? What am I afraid of? It's like, well, I'm not afraid enough to where I'm not going to do it. So let's just not make it not make it something I don't like. Obviously I do like it. That's why I'm doing track. Obviously I like MMA. That's why I'm doing it. I don't want to make it something I hate. I don't want to make it something I don't enjoy.
That's so rational.
That's not why I do this. I do this because I love it. So let's not make it something I hate ever. I try not to.
That's a very rational approach, though. It's very unusual for people.
Yeah, like there's nothing in this life, like if I want to do it, that fear is going to stop me. Fear is a realistic thing. It happens. Yeah, it's scary to get in the cage. It's scary to think about losing, and I've tasted the most bitter losses you could ever dream of, and it's devastating. It's crushing. That's the most scary thing. It's not getting beat up. It's not breaking your nose or breaking my orbital bone or letting my arm get snapped in half. That's not the scary part about fighting and what I do. The scary part is not being adequate enough, not being good enough. That your 100% wasn't good enough. That's scary. That's really scary. And I've had that. I've had to face that point blank right in the face many times before. And it's the hardest thing to do, bar none. It's the hardest thing to look at yourself and be like, I wasn't enough. I wasn't enough. No one else could be responsible for that. I fucked up. I didn't do it. I have to own this. And to come back from something like that and think that you can still get it back, or you can still do it again, or you can still get better, you can learn from that. That's also the challenging part of it, and that's something that I've had to get to this point. I've had to get over those situations where I thought that my world had ended. My second loss to Ronda was the most devastating. The first loss was devastating. The second loss was, it was horrible. I thought my world was coming to an end, and nobody cared. Well, my family and friends, but the rest of the world, they don't care. They don't give a shit. They don't care about second place. They don't care, and they're mean. People are harsh. They're mean on social media. You have to get thick skin quick. And nobody teaches you how to deal with that either. There's no MMA social media 101, or you just sink or swim. You figure it out or you don't. Either it bothers you or it doesn't. Either you yell back at everyone or you don't, Well,
you're in the first generation that's ever had to deal with that.
Yeah. So
there's never been anybody in the last 10 years. This is a new occurrence.
Yeah. And they don't teach you how to deal with it or how to not let it affect you emotionally.
Well, no one knows. No one knows. I mean, this is a total new field.
Learning experience,
Especially for someone who does what you do, which is the most exposed an athlete ever gets ever.
Yeah.
Like if you lose a tennis match and the world says, hey, you fucking suck at tennis, you're like, oh, whatever, bitch.
Yeah.
You can move on with your life. But if you're like, Ronda beat you again, you fucking dumb hoe, and you're like, oh my God, I can't believe this.
100%.
Why are people so goddamn mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's fighting. It's like the most primal thing. So what other sports always boil down to when they don't like another person is fighting. That's like the most primal way to deal with something. So once your sport is fighting, then people feel like they have more justification to talk shit, even though they're just like, gosh. I have to laugh because John Jones and Daniel Cormier, when we were in New York, they opened up the questions to the audience. Big mistake, because these little pipsqueaks, they got on the microphone and are like, so Daniel Cormier, I just want to say I have a really important question for you. How's it going to feel when John Jones kicks your ass again? And I'm just like, you idiot. Like if you wouldn't have the balls to say that if it was just you and Daniel in this room and no one was going to know the outcome of what happened after you said that.
Well, the fact that people feel so safe that they can
They
say
can
something
do
like
that.
that to a killer like Daniel Cormier.
Right. And then they did the same thing to John Jones.
Did you ever see what they did to Rashad Evans? Mm-mm. Rashad Evans was at a photo signing, and this guy comes up to him with a picture of, there's an iconic photo of when Lyoto knocked him out,
Yeah.
where he's like kind of crumpled up against the cage.
Yeah.
And this kid, this little skinny fucking kid with a smile on his face, wanted Rashad to sign that. And Rashad crumpled it up and threw it at him and looked at him like, are you out of your fucking mind? Like, do you know what I could do to you right now? Like, are you trying to hurt my feelings? You trying to make me feel bad? You're trying to punk me in front of all these people while you have a camera on me because you're filming it? Like, your friends are filming this reaction to you sticking it. I mean, just this callousness and also just being oblivious. Like, oblivious to, like, why would you want to do that?
Yeah.
Why would you want to say that to John Jones?
I don't get it. Why
Because these
people want to
fucking
be...
dummies grow up watching pro wrestling, and they don't understand that this is real.
Yeah.
Like you saying, how's it gonna feel to get your ass kicked again? What? Who said that? Like they were expecting like some fucking fake thing.
Right.
It's like you just get oblivious to the idea that you're hurting someone's feelings for no reason, and you can also get caught up in it emotionally. Like people get caught up. Like I watched Conor McGregor's social media after Nate Diaz beat him, and holy shit! I was saying to my friends, I'm like, I hope he stays offline for a few days.
Yeah.
Just don't go anywhere near a computer for like a solid week.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's just the cunts. The cunts of the world, just the deluge
And
of
they
twats.
wait for it.
Oh, they love it.
And the
People
thing is-
hate their own lives.
Is the thing is that nobody wins in our sport forever. Like,
No.
so you're going to have to face that at some point.
It's one of the most exciting things about it is that it's so volatile. Like the Chris Weidman Luke Rockhold fight to me is like a perfect example of that. I see Chris Weidman training. I watch videos of him training. I'm like, what is going on in his mind right now? Because Weidman was so dominant, and he, even in that fight, incredibly competitive, and he throws one kick. One crazy wheel kick, one ill-advised wheel kick. Rockhold takes him down and smashes him. And I wonder, like, how much does that kick haunt him? How much does that fight haunt him? Like, how much? What is going on in his mind? Well, here's a guy who destroys Anderson Silva, beats the fuck out of Lyoto Machida, Vitor Belfort smashes him in the first round. You watch his fights and you just go, okay, like, what is this Rockhold fight going to play off like? And then when Rockhold beats him down the way he did and destroys him, like, you go, oh, we go changing of the guard here. Like, these moments, these pivotal moments of, like, your whole life changes. You go from being Chris Weidman, UFC middleweight champion of the world, one of the best fighters on the planet, to Chris Weidman, former UFC middleweight champion of the world, now hoping he gets a shot at his title in a rematch. And now that he's got it, and it's going to happen soon, it's like, whoa, the drama and the buildup. Like, I can't imagine being him right now. Like, the tension that he's under right now, and the pressure, and how much emotional connection he has towards this attempt to win his title back, and how intense it's going to be once they get in there.
Yeah, and they're really starting to not like each other. The last time I was here for Fox, I think it was about a month or so ago, they were there, and there was some tension.
Of course.
They were in studio, and you could tell Chris was just, he's pissed. He's not happy with the situation. And Luke Rockhold's kind of like, he's happy. He's got the belt. He's kind of boasting it around a little bit. And he's kind of ribbing Chris. You could tell, like trying to get under his skin a little bit. And Chris is like, you could just tell he's just like upset. Like,
well, they were kind of
blame
friendly before that, which is weird.
Yeah.
They were friendly before that, like for a long time. Like there's photos of the two of them together smiling and
Not anymore.
Yeah. Well, when a guy beats you down like that, like, and you lose your title the way Weidman did.
Yeah.
But Rockhold's fucking good. He's fucking good.
I saw Holly once since the fight, and I was really actually kind of nervous about it because I was like, she was at the Jones OSP fight that just happened, and we were both at the VIP party, and my friend Heather Clark used to train. Heather Jo Clark, she's actually fighting this weekend in Rotterdam. Anyways, she was like, you should go and talk to her. I was like, yeah, I want to. I don't want to come on. Like, what do I say?
What's up, bitch?
Yeah, right. Like, what do you say to someone that you just, you took their
Give her
title?
a hug. Say hi. I don't know.
That's what I did. I just went up and was like, how are you? And she gave me a hug. She's like, I'm just really bummed I didn't get that rematch. I'm like, I know. I was like, don't worry. I was like, well, we'll see each other in the future. She's like, yeah. She's like, I hope so. She's like, I hope you still have it. She's like, I want to. see you again in the future. I'm like, yeah, I totally get it. I've been in her shoes before. I know how bad that sucks, and she wants that back. But, we were friendly.
But it's amazing how both of you are so nice. Like, Holly is one of the nicest
She's
people.
so nice. She's such a sweetheart.
Ridiculously nice. Like, if you didn't know she was a fighter, you'd be like, no fucking way. And then you find out she's a 19-time world boxing champion. You'd be like, what the fuck are you talking about?
I know.
How's that possible? How's that nice lady a killer?
Yeah, some tomfoolery.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense. Like, and she doesn't fit the mold either. Like, both of you guys are really interesting representatives of MMA and great representatives because you break that mold.
I'm not a fan of her manager, though.
Oh, yeah? Who is
well, I don't know. I don't even know if I've ever met him in person. I probably haven't. Maybe I have. If I did, it wasn't memorable. But anyways, I guess he went, Dana went down. So Dana told me this. Dana went down to Albuquerque before this fight ever came together of her and I, right? And he said, look, you guys need to wait for Ronda. Trust me. That's the big money fight. That's the fight you want to wait for. He went down there. He told me this in my face. He went down there to tell them, don't fight Miesha Tate. Like, they didn't want to give me, the UFC did not want that fight to happen.
Right.
They wanted, the rematch to be the first fight. And Holly's manager told him, we want Miesha Tate. And Dana said he threw up his hands and was like, are you fucking kidding me? He's like, she's been the baddest, other than Ronda for years now. And you want to take her lightly? You think you're just going to walk through? He's like, yeah, we got this. Like, she's going to be a tune-up fight.
Who's her manager?
I don't even know his name.
Okay.
I don't know. He's a idiot. But he told Dana that they thought that I was going to be a tune-up fight.
Well, people get crazy. People get crazy. Look, Ronda's people got crazy too. Everybody gets crazy. People get crazy. Like, why did Ronda charge after?
People get crazy.
Why did she try to stand with Holly like that and charge after her? Like, that's not the right attempt, right? Like,
you know what she did to Paige?
What?
So Paige was also at that VIP party, and Paige and I have spoken. We're friendly. Don't know her that well, but anyway, she felt the need. She came up to me. She's like, Miesha. She's like, I have to tell you this experience I had with Ronda. And I'm like, oh, what? And she's like, well, we were at a Reebok deal just, recently. And she's like, we were at a shoot. And she's like, I was trying to find her so we could get a picture. And the Reebok people were like, don't ask Ronda for a picture. And she's like, why? They're like, just stay away from Ronda. Don't ask her for a picture. She's like, okay. And I guess Ronda came later that day and seeked her out and just cussed her out. And they've never really had a conversation either. She's like, I don't know Ronda, other than hi, bye. That's it. I guess Ronda came up and was like, fuck you, you fair weather bitch. How dare you cross me? Blah, blah, blah. She's like, cross you? What are you talking about? And she's like, you congratulated Holly Holm for beating me. So fuck you, you fucking fair weather, 115 pound. It was just went off on Paige. And Paige came and told me, and I was like, honey, welcome to my world. She's like, oh my God. She's like, I'm glad that I saw this side of her so I know. I'm like, well... And she's like, because I didn't understand. She's like, I told Ronda, I'm sorry if that offended you, but I'm allowed to congratulate whoever I want. And she's like, because, I congratulated Rose Namajunas when she beat me. I was like, congratulations, you whooped my ass. That was a badass performance. And she's like, I just simply told Holly congratulations once, and wasn't anything, anti-Ronda. But Ronda, I guess, just ripped her a new one.
Wow. You have to be on Team Ronda for life.
Yeah. I guess. I've never been on Team Ronda, so I'm good. All or none.
Wow.
But
yeah. Well,
it's crazy.
People love both ways. It's
Yeah.
interesting. People love your way, but people also love shit talking.
True.
People love Nate Diaz for that. People love the drama, but they also love someone like you
I'm
who
somewhere
can
in the
walk
middle,
up to
though.
Holly and hug her.
Yeah. I'm somewhere in the middle, though, because I get a lot of flack for my mouth. So I just can't. I say what I'm thinking, and I'm pretty transparent. And sometimes people think that I get a lot of flack. Oh, you're fake or this and that. I'm like, not really. Just because I'm I'll say this. I'm a fan of Conor. I am. I like his fighting style, and I his antics at first were kind of like, wait, who is this guy? What is he? And then I'm like, man, props to him. He's done amazing things. Good for him, and he's done really good things for our sport. But when he didn't show up to film that commercial, I'm not, I'll be honest. Yeah, it kind of rubbed me the wrong way because people are like, oh, he does so much more media than you guys do. Yeah, he probably does. He probably does. I do a lot. He probably does more. I agree. But I don't have a private jet flying out to pick me up and bring me back and fly 20 people of my crew with me too. He does more, so he gets more. When they bring him to Vegas, they put him up in a penthouse. They make sure he has everything that he needs. I don't get that. That's fine. He's earned that. He's in that spot. No problem with that. But I think 3 months out from a fight camp, you know, you have a private jet coming to pick you up. You can bring 20 of your teammates. You could probably work out on the jet if you want to on the way there because it's yours. It's private. Do whatever you want.
Wow, you could probably hit mitts on the jet.
Yeah, you could totally, you know, and you're 3 months out and you don't want to show for your media obligations. Like, I don't really understand that. I don't know. I guess I'm trying to figure it out. But the only issue that I had, and it doesn't bother me. Like, if he didn't want to do it, that's his own thing. The thing is that I showed up the day to film the commercial and I had 2 segments I was supposed to film and that's all that was on my schedule. And then they asked me, like, they were like, can you please help us out because Connor's not here and we don't know what we're doing for this 3rd segment of the commercial that was supposed to be Connor and Nate. So can you please come back later that day and film that segment? And that was during my practice time. So I had to come back and, you know, I did it. So it was like company woman, but like, it was just frustrating because it's like, dang, you know, if I had known about this, I could have planned my training otherwise, but now I kind of have to like scramble to get my second workout in and then it affected me. So yeah, his decision did. And it probably is actually, you know, I haven't made any more money in the sport yet because of Connor. A lot of people like, oh, you must have got a bigger payday because that last. I'm like, no, because I wasn't the champion. So I didn't get any more of like, I didn't get any pay-per-views. I didn't get any more money. And now he's like not on this fight card. So I'm like, you know, but it's whatever. You know, it's Connor's deal. And I don't hate Connor, but I'm going to say how I feel, you know, and I would say it if he was sitting here too. Like, dude, why did you do that? You probably.
Well, I feel like there's a bunch of issues here, and and the only way to really get a firm understanding of it is to sit down with everyone involved and say what was communicated. Your manager,
Yeah.
did he know what the appearance schedule was going to be? Like, did you guys agree to this? Did you understand what you were getting into when
And
you were
that's
fighting?
it. Maybe it's a misunderstanding, you know?
Who knows? It's hard to say, but the way he went about it was ridiculous. Like saying I'm retired, thanks for the cheese, and then saying I'm not retired, and then saying I'm glad the UFC decided to give the fans what they want, and I'm going to be on UFC 200, and everybody's like, what?
Mm-hmm.
And so like what he's doing is he's kind of like using the media to try to get this thing to pass through, but he doesn't understand Dana and Lorenzo and Frank.
No.
Like that's never going to work. Like you're either in or you're not in.
Right.
Like, and they're like real clear about that. They have to set a precedent. So like if you say, fuck you, I'm not doing media, they're going to go, oh, well, okay, fuck you, you're not fighting.
Yeah.
But hold on, I'm Conor McGregor. We're the UFC.
Yeah.
Like, this is what it is.
They've made many stars. They'll make many more in the future.
And we might lose millions of dollars because you're not on UFC 200.
Yeah. Well, Dana
So
said
what?
that he had put they put $10 million into promoting this already. $10 million. And he's like, we're way over budget, you know. So that's why he was like, you've got to show up and do. You know, that's how Conor was made.
Yes.
Is through that stuff. So
exactly.
now, like, at what point do you get to decide that you don't have to do that anymore? Like, if that's what made you who you are, like, I mean, don't you kind of have to like? Does that make sense? What I'm saying here?
It makes
like,
sense.
I mean, at what point do you get to decide like when you don't have to? Like, you're like, I use the machine and now like I don't. I just want to hop off now that I'm here. You know, like I don't know. Don't you kind of have to keep it the same?
I think so, but there is also like a fine line, right? Like you can do too much. Like when I was watching the Jose Aldo media tour when they were going all around the world, I'm like, okay, I understand that you want to promote this fight, but how much of this is helping the actual fight itself? And how much of it is just Conor McGregor constantly talking shit at press conferences and grabbing the belt and all that? I mean, that's really kind of what's selling.
How far out from the fight was that?
I don't know. They did a lot of it. But apparently Conor was sick. Like, he was like, I'm just constantly fighting off a cold. It's really hard to get in shape, really hard to train because every week, you know, you're traveling from here to there and there to here. It's just you're constantly getting beaten down. And you know what it's like. If you have you ever flown to Brazil and fought?
No. I've flown their 4 fight cards, though.
What is the furthest you've ever had to fly to fight?
Japan.
So that's an interesting one. That's a long flight. It's like 16 hours, right?
Yeah.
What is it like adjusting and then competing?
I try to start adjusting my schedule at home, like blacking out my windows a little bit, or, you know, like to make the time frame. But you never get fully adjusted. But my mind frame is like when push comes to shove, when fight time comes, whether it's 2 a.m. my time or not, like I'm going to be game. So I just look at it that way. But it's not fun. Like I remember 3 weeks out from my fight with Rin Nakai, which I didn't want to do that fight because she was so unknown. She was undefeated. I'm going over there to like fight on a newly blooming fight pass. And I was like, this is like, feels like it does nothing for me. And if she wins, it springboards her, then she'll be 17-0. She'll have a judo background. They're going to want to make that fight for her and Ronda. I know that's what they're trying to do. So they're trying to use, business, use me as that springboard. And it's like, I don't really want to do this, but I did it. But 3 weeks before the fight, they had me fly to Japan to do some promotional stuff. And I was flying longer than I was even on the ground. And they said like ticket sales went up and everything was really good. But yeah, that was exhausting. So I understand
3 weeks before.
Yeah.
That's hard.
Really hard.
You're peaking, right?
Really hard.
You're ramping it up 3 weeks in.
Super hard. And after my fight with Holly, like I got to spend a little time in Australia, and then I went straight from Australia to New York, spent a day there, did a full day of media, went to Connecticut to ESPN, did a full day of media, went to Toronto, did a full day of media. And it's just like, it's non-stop from like, you start your first interview at 8 a.m, so you have to pick up at like 7, and you go until 7 at night. And even while you're driving to the next place, they'll have you on the phone with a radio interview. I mean, there's no break. It's pretty intense. It's pretty crazy. It's pretty exhausting. So I get it. I have been in those shoes before, but it's, I don't know, maybe there's more extenuating. Maybe he was hurt or something. Maybe he didn't want people to see. Like maybe, I don't know, like what if there's even something like that? Like what if he had like hurt himself or something and he didn't want like Nate to know? Or
yeah, who knows?
I don't know.
Who knows? And it's also, he also had to realize there was a lot of work that needed to be done to beat Nate.
Yeah.
Like he had hit Nate with some of his best shots, and Nate was fine with it.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a real problem.
I think that's more what it was, is that he was just obsessed with beating Nate. And I get that too. I don't take that away from him for a minute. Like he wanted to stay home, or he was in Iceland, I guess, training. Mm-hmm. And he wants to train to beat Nate. I get it. Totally get it.
Yeah, I get it too. It seems like the only way. Also, I felt like.
But then again, he could have brought his whole gym with him,
Sure.
So
well, he could have tried. I mean, it was going to be a difficult time just trying to find the moments to train and to stay in shape, and then obviously being exhausted from flying and all that jazz.
I think it was a quick turnaround too. Like as far as like, I don't think he was supposed to be there more than like 2 days. So
I honestly think he's better off not doing it. Yeah. I honestly think he's better off like sequestering himself for a few months, like really focusing on what went wrong, how to correct it.
I agree.
And can you correct it?
Yeah.
I mean, do you like when it comes to the ground game? What I saw on the ground, I was like, boy, this is a long road. Like you've got a long road to beat a guy like Nate.
Yeah.
He's so much further along in ground and pound, jiu-jitsu, positioning, everything. When I was watching Nate beat him up on the ground and then choke him, I was like, woo, that happened quick.
Yeah.
Like this is not like Weidman and Rockhold was a prolonged beating before Rockhold eventually stopped him the next round.
Yeah.
But with Nate and Connor, it wasn't that prolonged. It happened pretty quickly.
Yeah.
And when you see that, you go, ooh, like this is there's a lot to overcome.
Yeah.
It's not unsurmountable.
It takes a lot of time to build those skill sets. They don't come overnight. You can pick up your cardio pretty quick. You can do a lot of things, but you can't build a skill set any faster than it's gonna go into your muscle memory and be in your rep. You've got to put thousands of reps in.
There's no way around it.
Yeah.
There's no way.
There's no way to fast forward through that. There's no way to cut the corner. There's nothing. You can't. Just repetition, repetition, repetition.
What also it highlights all the various eccentric aspects of your training that people are like, is this what makes Connor great? And, and then, Nate calling it touch butt in the park. Like they're doing all these cartwheels and stuff.
That
and then
video was so funny.
Hilarious.
Oh my God. I was dying laughing.
Hilarious. So when this all, he's doing all this work with this movement guy, but then you see what happens when it actually comes to fighting skills, and you go, ooh, maybe this is not the way to do it. Because I've talked to a lot of people that were like, this stuff that he's doing is utter horseshit. Like this doing cartwheels and being obsessed with movement. Here's the movements you need to be worried about, okay? Moving your feet, throwing kicks and punches, takedown defense, and jiu-jitsu on the ground. That's it.
Yeah.
Understanding takedowns yourself, taking people down if you must, trips, sweeps, all that stuff. But all this cartwheels, and what this guy was explaining to me, and I don't want to name any names because he's a prominent guy. He was like, you have to understand that there's a limited amount of energy you have in your time training.
Yes.
And you are not perfect at all these other aspects of MMA. So if you are not perfect at all these other aspects of MMA, you have to say, okay, how much of this stuff is going to help me? Well, a guy like Georges St-Pierre, he looked at gymnastics and he's like, you know what's going to help me? If I can be stronger physically, and there's no better way, I think, like as far as like manipulating your body than gymnastics, like doing the rings and developing.
It's proprioception.
Yeah.
You're learning how to manipulate your body in all kinds of contorted positions.
Yes.
And being upside down and understanding where you are when you're upside down and
Right.
where you're going to be with the momentum you have. You have to calculate that. Your math is doing constant algorithms and math equations essentially when you're fighting too. You know,
Right.
weight distribution, where are we at? Especially when you tie up with someone else and you have to feel their weight and you have to manipulate it in a way to get it where you want, whether it's against the cage or whether it's on the ground. Your body is using a equation.
Yeah.
You know, your mind is equating how much force do I need to make this happen? How little force? Like, what if I go the opposite direction because they're pushing into me? There's all these different things that you have to there's no other way to do it than a trial and error process and over and over and over and over again.
Yeah, and you look at someone who's like really good at one aspect of MMA, like Yoel Romero, who's just a ridiculous wrestler. And you go, okay, like how much touch butt in the park is that guy doing? You know, how many cartwheels is he doing? Is he tumbling?
No,
is he
but I
rolling
bet
down
you
the
he
grass?
does 100 double legs a day.
Oh yeah, at least.
You
at
know?
least, yeah. Well, he's doing all kinds
And
of
then
crazy
100
shit.
single legs and then 100 body locks and then, you know, every
But
day.
until Conor lost, everybody's like, this is what we need. We need a movement coach. I need a movement coach, you know?
Well,
and it still might, I mean, as we said with Georges St-Pierre, it has massive benefits to get that kind of coordination, physical
you know what
strength.
I do like about Conor though is like his balance is impeccable, and
Yeah.
that could be part of that. And like he's never over himself,
Mm-hmm.
at least with the striking part of it. Anyways, you know, the ground is a completely different thing. But when he's in striking range and it's just his body, his eye-hand coordination is incredible, and his balance. Like he's never too far over a punch. He's never too far back. He's always centered. He's always centered. He throws a kick. He never gets, you know, you see people kick and they miss and they kind of like stumble, like their weight's off balance, or they kick and even land. And even when they put their foot down, it's kind of like it's not a good landing, you know, like
Right.
I'm not like the world's best kicker, but when I watch Conor do it, it's like he kicks or push kicks and sticks. He is like a gymnast in this sense, you know,
Yes.
they do those flip and then they want to just boom, stick it. Like, and he's really, really good at that.
Well, in that sense, maybe that's where the movement does benefit him.
I think so,
You know,
that
maybe-
he never is over himself in his weight distribution.
Isn't it the case that whenever someone loses, though, everyone always second guesses what they were doing, even if what
Always.
they were doing was getting them to be like 16-0, totally
Yeah.
undefeated world champion? When you make a mistake or something goes wrong or something goes right for your opponent, we should probably say, immediately people start questioning everything you did.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
All the time. I mean, it happened with me when, you know, when I lost to Ronda, like, oh, you got to change this, you got to change everything. But as long as you're winning, people are like, yeah, keep doing what you're doing. It's working. And then you lose, they're like, change everything. It's like, geez, that was
Yeah.
quick.
Well, that's also the Ronda criticism in the Holly Holm fight. Everybody was like looking at her like dominating Betch Correia with stand up, you know, beating Sarah McMahon the way she did, Alexis Davis beating her down the way she did. And you go, well, look, Ronda obviously is getting so good at striking. She's such an elite athlete that she can do what she's doing to anybody. And then her trainer saying that she could go box women professionals and knock them out. And so you get this thing in your head that you can do what you have been doing.
Yeah.
And then you fight someone like Holly, and you go, "Oh, well, okay."
Yeah.
Yeah, there's so many levels. I mean, it's one of the
It's
more
like-
fascinating things about martial arts is that there are so many levels.
Yeah. And it's never ending. It's
Yeah.
like a never ending story. It's
Yeah,
just,
really is, right?
Yeah. It's just a song that never ends. Just goes on and on, my friends. Yeah. No, it's literally, you never, and just when you think you have it all figured out, boom, there goes the curveball. I think
Yeah.
that's what's addicting about this sport, though. Like, it's safe to say it's like a drug. It's addicting. I think adversity, in some weird way, I'm definitely addicted to that. I like it when things seem insurmountable or they look too hard or other people don't believe that I can do it.
That's such a weird quality because most people have the opposite. Most people are like, I like it when I know I can take a nap. I like it when that couch looks soft and I'm going to walk over there and plop myself down on it, you know? And you're like, I'm going to run up that fucking mountain with no air.
Yeah. See how I fare. See how long I could go before I pass out.
That's a weird quality.
Yeah. I don't know. It is weird, but I like it. I don't know. I like that about myself, because I know anytime I ever get into a hard situation about anything, it's like I can get through it. I've seen worse, you know.
Well, you definitely have proven that. There's no doubt about it. You know, and you've proven it inside the octagon just leading up to this fight. Obviously, you proved it in this fight, but you proved it leading up to this fight. Like the Sarah McMahon fight, I think was one of your most impressive fights because
Thanks.
you got her down. And you were, I mean, she's a fucking silver medalist in the Olympics, and you were dominating the top position. You out-scrambled her, you stayed on top of her, and you beat her down. And I was like, that is a big victory.
You got a heavy top game.
You do?
We should grapple sometime.
Okay. Uh-oh, I'm scared now. Uh-oh. Well, girls say we should grapple sometimes.
Yeah,
That
well,
always gets odd.
it's like
yeah.
that got weird quick.
Yeah, got real work. No, I'm sure you do. I'm sure you do.
But yeah, it comes from wrestling, and I think just experience and knowing, you know, wrestling can translate. A lot of sports can translate well into mixed martial art. I happen to think wrestling is one of the best translations, you know, as opposed to like typically boxers coming into the sport don't typically transition as well. Kickboxers, you know, because they have so much more to learn. I feel like the fundamentals of wrestling kind of they encompass a lot of what you need in MMA. And if you're the better wrestler, you can decide, do I want to stay on the feet or I want to take it to the ground? It dictates.
Right.
It dictates. So with that being said, I think I learned how to use the pieces that work for wrestling in MMA and take out the ones that don't. Because there's a lot of stuff in wrestling or any other sport that you're going to bring over that doesn't work for MMA, because MMA is a sport of its own. And I think maybe like McMahon, she's such an elite level wrestler that she's so ingrained with just wrestle that it's hard sometimes with the more elite you are at something to like water it down again, essentially. And that's kind of what you have to do, that you have to take pieces out for mixed martial arts. There's some things that you don't want to do because, you get choked if you do that.
Right.
You know, like when you're in wrestling, the last thing you want to do is be on your back. So you turn over, you arch out, you lift your neck. It's like, oh man, if you try to do that, you try to stand up the way that you would in a wrestling match, you're going to get choked. You can't do that. You got to keep your chin tucked, and then you got a hand fight. So there's things that you have to relearn. And I think when you're such an elitist at something, sometimes it's hard to relearn those.
It's a very good point, and I think you could also use that same point when you're talking about strikers learning takedown defense, and that like a lot of strikers like to stand up really straight. And, you know, as soon as they get involved in exchanges with people, they fall into their old striking ways. And that's when a guy like Georges St-Pierre, who was so good at being unpredictable, like you never knew if he was going to take you down, if he was going to stand with you.
One of the most flawless fighters, wouldn't you say? As far as like a game plan, sticking to a game plan, being disciplined, never getting emotional, never getting away from the game plan.
Well, in his prime,
That's
when you look
hard.
at during his run, and no one keeps a run up forever, but during his run, I mean, he beat everybody they put in front of him, and he fought in some incredible fights where he fought some really, really dangerous, difficult guys and managed his way through the water to victory. And that's all you could ever expect from a champion.
Yeah.
And people would say, like, oh, well, some of his fights were boring, or he played safety first. Like, Jesus Christ, he fought the killers of the killers. And he had 5 rounds. And during those 5 rounds, you know, Carlos Condit head kicks him and drops him. You know, Matt Serra knocked him out and won the title. He's had adversity.
Yeah.
But he beat everybody.
Yeah.
Like, you can't ask for more.
Yeah.
Like, what do you think would happen? I mean, if he just – there's this mentality that some fans want where they want a guy who wants to bite down his mouthpiece and just swing away and, like, come on 7 and hope for the best. That's so retarded. Like, that's not what martial arts are about.
Oh, 100%. People, I think, sometimes tend to enjoy the excitement of amateur fights more because they're more chaotic. Like, people don't know what they're doing, so it's just like stick two people in there that kind of know how to throw punches and maybe kind of know how to wrestle, and they just go balls to the wall because that's all that they know that they're confident in.
Yeah.
It's like, just go as hard as you can.
Well, it's also like a really good debate between two very articulate and very intelligent people. No one is going to get the real upper hand real quick. There's going to be points and counterpoints. There's going to go like back and forth. Both guys are going to be very well prepared. Both women are going to be very well prepared. You're not going to get like a very clear winner right away unless something crazy happens like Aldo and McGregor.
Right.
Like Aldo's just so mad at McGregor from all this fucking shit talking he's been doing for months and months and months that he just runs at him and gets clipped. You know?
Is that crazy?
Oh, for a guy like Aldo, that's got to be maddening.
Oh, yeah.
You hold the title for 9 fucking years or however long he held it.
And then
I think
13 seconds.
Oh, my God. I mean, and he
I've never seen Aldo do that. He was so emotionally charged.
Yeah, he was very upset.
And that just goes to
Obviously.
show, you know, that how much the mind is a powerful thing. It's like if if you think you can or think you can't, you're right. Either way, it's really derived from your mind, and you can have all the skills in the world. If you don't believe you can do it or whatever, if you don't have the confidence in your mind, you won't. It's just interesting. Or if someone puts a seed in there and like Connor, I just think that he was so good at the mental warfare, and Jose never had to deal with that.
Never.
Before.
That was the thing. It was all respect. Everyone that he fought shook his hand, respected him, realized he's this killer. I mean, and he was the reigning featherweight champion for as long as there was a featherweight champion. He was the first, the original. He held that title for longer than anybody and was flawless. I mean, he had some amazing fights, but he started to show like some chinks in his armor towards the end. Like the second fight that he had with Chad Mendez, like it showed like that was a real war and a real grueling fight. Whereas, the first fight with Mendez, he just looks insane. He looked tremendous and stopped Mendez quick. So I think nobody rides for free.
They train so hard in Brazil too.
Oh.
They're insane.
No doubt. Yeah.
Oh God.
Novo and Yao in particular. Yeah. They go to war.
There's a good saying about training smarter and not harder sometimes, or working, usually it's working, but same thing goes for training. Overtraining is a big thing in this sport.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up because I wanted to talk to you about that because you had mentioned that in the Holly fight that you had made sure, when you're training for a 5-round fight in particular, how do you make sure that you are at peak performance level but you're not overtraining? Like who designs your program?
Well, I think a lot of it depends on athlete input. Someone can design a program, but if you show up one day and you're supposed to be pushing sleds, or do something heavy and hard, and you're like, I'm exhausted, then they're like, okay, we need to dial it back. Your
do you
feedback,
monitor your heart rate?
Yeah, I wear like the polar heart rate monitor.
Do you take it in the morning when you wake up?
I do the HRV and see where I'm at, and that was
What's
helpful.
What's an HRV?
The heart rate variable.
Okay.
So basically, it tells you how your heart is recovering. So when you first wake up in the morning, from my understanding, the more that your heart is kind of like irregular, maybe for a better sense of terms, means that it's responding to things like quickly. If it's kind of sluggish and it's kind of like not really reading that kind of quick reaction, then it's not. Then you're tired. That your body's still broken down. It's not recovered. That you're kind of looking for that irregular, kind of good bouncy. I don't know if it's a rhythm, but there's something that the HRV reads, not just the heart rate, but something about the heart, and it reads it, the heart rate variable, and tells you whether you're actually recovered or not.
And who goes over this stuff with you? Do you have
No, not really. My sports doctor, I'll go over it with him.
But you're basically calling the shots.
Yeah, and it's really easy to read. It's either green, orange, or red. Like if you're in the red, don't kill yourself that day. Like it tells you, it's very simple. Like anyone can do it. Wake up in the morning, and if your heart rate variable is in the red, that means like this should be a relatively easy day, either a rest day or relatively easy. Maybe just go for a nice run, like just let your body recover. Because you don't realize you don't get stronger while you're training. You don't get stronger while you're lifting weights. You're actually damaging your body. You're actually going backwards. You get stronger when you're resting.
Yeah, you're recovering from the work, and that's what makes you stronger.
That's literally what it is when you're resting after you've worked out hard and after you tore everything apart. I mean, if you work out 24/7, there's no chance to repair and heal and grow and get stronger. So, it just goes back to that science and that balance of like when to push hard and when to not push hard. And I think that our sport typically has a lot of really tough people who don't like to ever think, they're just in that work hard mentality because we're fighters. We're like the toughest people. But a lot of times they don't stop and think like, it doesn't matter how tough you are. Like science is science, buddy. It doesn't matter. Like going, I'm just going to work out hard. I'm going to push through it. I'm going to spar hard today, even though I feel like crap. Like, I mean, there's something to be said maybe for mental toughness, I guess. You're going to go in there and you're going to push through it. There's times for that. But I don't question my mental toughness, so I just listen to my body. I'm not at a point in my career where I have anything to prove as far as like how tough I am.
That's again Zen Miesha.
Yeah, my coaches always tell me like we don't need to prove how tough you are, Miesha. We already know that. So let's just if you don't feel like sparring today, we'll spar tomorrow.
Well, that's one of the things that I think really does trip up a lot of fighters is that they're so tough and they figure out how to push through injuries. They figure out how to force themselves through situations, but then they get these damage to their joints or damage to their back, and a lot of it comes from not recognizing the difference between an actual injury and pain. Just a little bit of discomfort and pain is normal. It's constant. It's never going to go away.
Yep.
Everybody who does martial arts experiences that. But for someone like a Cain Velasquez, it almost becomes like a detriment because he's such a fucking gorilla and he just knows how to push through everything that he blows everything out. He blows his shoulder out, and then he blows the other shoulder out, and he blows his knees out, and he blows his back out. I mean, he's, in my opinion, when he was at his best, he's the greatest of all time. It's between him and Fedor. Those are the two possible heavyweights. And the Fedor one always has to have an asterisk because he was fighting in pride, and it was, the steroid era. You could do whatever the fuck you want. Not saying even that he was on it, but who the fuck knows. But that I don't think the guys that he fought, even though he looked amazing against them, I don't think Hongman Choi is at the same level as like Junior Dos Santos when Junior Dos Santos was at his best. When Cain fought him. It's so hard to tell. And I think even Junior Dos Santos was overtrained for one of their fights.
Yeah.
And, they talked about it like they had measured his creatine levels in his blood, and he just hadn't recovered correctly.
Yep. That's a
so common.
That's a big part of it. It's very common.
Just being so tough.
Because you see people go in, whether it's a 3-round fight or a 5-round fight, sometimes you'll see people gas out like a round and a half.
Yeah.
A round in, you're like, oh, they must not have trained hard. No, it's probably that they trained too hard.
Yeah.
That's probably what it is. They were probably still beat up. Sometimes, like, I will go, like, fight week, and I'll be in the workout, the mat room that they have in the hotel, and sometimes I'll see these guys in there, and they're just going. I mean, they are going. They're hitting mitts. They're just, they're ripping the big takedowns, and they're just, blowing it all out. I'm just like, thinking, dude, it's the fight week. Calm down. The hard work should have already all been done. Like this week is about recovery.
Yeah.
And usually it's like people not like foreigners that are still in that mindset of like they're a little bit more old school mentality. I feel like some of those gyms still haven't caught up to the idea that it's not always about how hard you go.
Well, Matt Hughes told me that he used to train hard up until the day of the fight. Mm-hmm. He just trained hard. He's like, I always trained hard, and that's what I did with wrestling. Yeah. Fucking worked though.
Yeah.
Worked for him.
Well, but he was he was a high-level athlete for a long time, and he knew how to harness what. And it's not saying that it can't work, but I still think that there's something to be said about preserving the longevity of your career. You might not be able to do that as long. Well,
with a guy like Matt Hughes, it's so hard to say that now because he was such a pioneer. I mean, he was at the early days of the UFC and was one of the great champions and one of the greatest champions ever. And when you look at his title run and his reign of the 170-pound division, like during his heyday, you got to say, like, this guy, like, he sort of paved the way in a lot of ways, especially for a wrestler that developed some really good submission skills. I mean, he's got some excellent submission victories, including that armbar that he submitted George St. Pierre with. I mean, he had some really good submission skills for a wrestler.
Yeah. Oh, he's incredible. He was ahead of his time a little bit,
Yeah, well,
trendsetter.
Definitely ahead of his time, and, and an important pioneer if you look at the overall game. Like there's these moments where a person emerges and they go, okay, we haven't seen one of these guys before. Like Yair Rodriguez is a perfect example.
Yeah.
Like this fucking guy. I watch that guy fight and I go, Jesus Christ, like here's a new thing. Here's a guy who's like this elite Taekwondo guy who knows how to do everything else too. But he throws these Taekwondo kicks like a normal person throws a jab. They're a part of his arsenal.
Yeah.
He's throwing jumping roundhouse kicks and wheel kicks, and he's doing shit that, like, you gotta get ready for this because this guy's gonna do this every round, and this is a totally different type of engaging. Like, you've got to be aware of things coming from all these crazy angles, and they're coming fast. These wheel kicks and the jumping roundhouse kick that he hit Feely with.
Yeah,
like holy shit,
that was crazy,
fucking crazy. And he's one of these new guys. It's like he's got so much skill.
We used to train with Feely.
Did you?
Yeah, in Sacramento. We were a part of the Team Alpha Male, and it was funny, like he's come such a long way. Like he used to have, for some reason, he had like a house arrest thing on his ankle, like the band things.
He had to train with it on.
Yeah, he had to train with it on, but he did not want to train. So I guess he got permission to like go to the gym, and I don't know what it was, what it was for. But it's a funny story because it's like I just remember him back then, and he was just still like is still relatively new to the game, and now, he's doing well, other than obviously his last loss. But
well, he zigged when he should have zagged, and that's just what
he just
happens
got
in the
caught.
game. Yeah, he got caught. And he also fought a guy who is one of the elite of the elite right
Yeah.
now. At
Dangerous.
145,
and
he's
unpredictable.
so wild.
Yeah.
And his fucking ground game's really good, too. Yair can do everything.
Yeah.
That guy is something, man. He is, and I knew he was something, but Feely's something too. He's a tough fucking kid, and I thought that was going to be a great fight.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm really interested to see how Feely navigates the kicks, because that's the big thing. Is he going to try to kick with this guy? Is he going to try to like maybe just like bear down? Like, do you watch Glory at all?
A little bit.
Did you see Raymond Daniels and Joseph Valtellini?
No.
Valtellini is a traditional Muay Thai style fighter, and he just kept his hands up high and just chopped the legs and chopped him down and eventually knocked him out with a head kick. But Raymond Daniels is this wild motherfucker who throws jumping, spinning, 360 turning side kicks to your face and all this
Oh my
wild
gosh.
shit. And he was a point karate champion who eventually got into kickboxing.
Yeah.
And he's so wild with his kicks. He hit this guy with a touch front leg side kick and then spun in the air and hit him with a spinning back
It's
kick
like,
to
how
the
do you
face.
train for people like that? Like, who can recreate that style?
You'd have to get someone like him. You'd have to get a karate or a taekwondo
yeah,
champion
but that's what I'm
to
saying.
train
Is
with.
like,
It's all you can get, you
Yeah.
know? Well, it's people that don't understand that there's some skills that these traditional martial artists have, like traditional, like a lot of karate guys and a lot of taekwondo guys in particular. There's some things that they can do with their legs that the average person just can't do. And if that karate guy or that taekwondo guy, like a Yair Rodriguez, learns wrestling, learns jiu-jitsu, and learns kickboxing, and has all that shit at a really elite black belt level, like, you're fucked.
do you know someone, a good friend of yours, who can do weird things with his legs? Eddie Bravo.
Oh, yeah.
Good Lord.
Yeah.
That guy is like, he's like Gumby.
Well, he's been stretching his legs like that, like religiously
was he like
for a
that?
decade.
Was he not that flexible like growing
No,
up?
no,
So
no,
he just
no, that's all
keeps
work.
doing it.
It's Eddie, when you watch TV with Eddie, Eddie will never wear shoes. He doesn't wear shoes. He just puts his fucking feet everywhere, and it kind of freaks people out. But Eddie will sit there, and he'll just like be like
Pulling?
stretching himself out. So he'll be sitting watching TV.
That's pretty good,
And
Joe.
he'll be,
That's
I'm
pretty
pretty
good.
flexible
I'm
too.
impressed.
But he'll be like sitting there, and he'll hold it, and he can do that without like pulling on it. Like, he doesn't have to have arms that pull his legs in these positions. So he could just like tuck his legs into places, and all of a sudden you're like locked up in a go-go plata, and you don't even know how the fuck he got his leg there.
I know. I grappled with him once, like years ago. He was like
This guy's
really
retarded.
really tricky. But he's like, dude, you're like grappling with a dude.
Does that feel good, or is that...
Yeah, that's always a compliment. As long as people don't say I look like a dude, I
Yeah.
can grapple like a dude all day long, and that's never never an issue. I dread the
Right.
day when I love it when people are like, oh, you don't look like a fighter. I'm like, good, that's good, because like I really dread the day when people are like, man, you look like a fighter. Like, oh,
Whoops.
yeah, I
Went
guess-
too far.
Yeah, I pushed the edge of the envelope, and I didn't come out on the winning side.
Yeah, you
but-
grapple like a dude isn't okay. Like,
Yeah.
you make out like a dude.
Yeah,
Oh,
no, that's
oh,
not.
What?
Yeah,
How do you know?
yeah, right. That's
Where's
what-
this conversation going?
Yeah, like that got off
Yeah.
quick.
Well, there is a definite difference between watching some women grapple and what some women can do, and there's got to be some benefits to like being a woman when it comes to grappling.
There is sometimes like I'll grapple with some guys and I don't realize it's much different. They'll be like, "Man, you're so flexible," or like you got your ankles. Like I tried an ankle lock and it was like most guys would have tapped, but he's like, "You were fine." I was like, I don't know.
Have you ever seen this thing that ballerinas use? And this is, I think it's a new device, but it's like you slide your foot into like this, it seems like a rubber sheath. It's like there's a flat board and there's like this rubber sheath and you slide your foot into, and you do these exercises with your foot. And someone had put it up on one of the jiu-jitsu pages that I follow on Instagram, and they were like, this is like the best way to prevent foot locks. Like literally.
Because
like,
it just strengthens it so
strengthens it and stretches it to
And
the point
stretches it.
where, like if someone gets you into like a foot lock and they're
a toe
pushing
hold?
down, like a toe hold, and as they're pushing down on your foot, it's the hyperextending of the ankle
Yeah.
that gets you to tap, because
Yeah.
you're like, oh, I think something's going to tear, and then
Yeah.
people tap. And this gets your foot into this flexible position
makes
where you
sense.
kind of strengthen and make it so flexible that you can't get tapped in certain ways.
You never tried
Do you
one?
have it, Jamie? Is that what it is? Huh. That looks similar.
that?
That's similar. It's pro arch. Is that what it's called?
Oh, that looks like it's making it like where your feet are like yeah, like the arch of the ballerina foot. That's probably like strengthening to be able to stand on the
What
toes.
is that? You wearing Birkenstocks?
Ballet is brutal.
Oh, the feet.
Their feet are so
Oh,
they're
busted.
so wrecked.
So nasty.
So bad. Oh god. It's like I thought my feet were bad.
I knew this girl who's a ballerina, and she had to have her feet fixed because her toes, she had smashed her toes for so long, like doing like point and trying to stand on her toes, that she had to get like, she had these scars over the top of her feet where she had to get her toes like realigned and
Yeah.
get her ligaments repaired.
Ballet is a hard sport from my understanding. Like I don't think they get enough credit. I don't know.
Well, they also have to starve themselves. You know,
yeah,
they have to be
super
tiny.
skinny.
Did you see that Swan movie? Was it Black Swan?
Yes, yeah.
Freaking
It was
fucking movie.
insane.
Yeah.
Right? I was
Oh,
like, oh,
Yeah.
I don't know.
That's not a women's empowering sort of a
No.
activity.
Yeah, I posted a picture of me with a scale the other day, like weighing myself. People like 147. They're like freaking out about it or whatever. I'm like, yeah, I weigh, almost 150 pounds. But they're like, that's good. That not, it goes to show you don't have to be 100 pounds or 110 pounds to like look good or be beautiful or whatever. And I'm like, yeah, I'm not ashamed of what I weigh at all. Like at all. I don't care. I could weigh 160 pounds as long as I look good and feel good. Like, people were just kind of surprised that I guess.
Well,
I
a lot
weigh
of
that
women
much,
have
but-
like numbers in their head that you don't want to go over.
Yeah,
like
I'm like, I don't-
135 is like the peak. Don't get bigger than this, bitch.
Yeah.
You know?
I think it used to be like 110. My mom's best friend growing up, she was Vietnamese, and they had a rule. Well, she was half Vietnamese, so the Vietnamese side of her family. So she was a little bit bigger bone, gorgeous, beautiful, like exotic, green eyes, dark black hair, like half Vietnamese, really, really pretty. And her family was so hard on her because she weighed over 100 pounds. Like you were supposed to be under. You're supposed to be 99 or less because they're all super tiny. But she was half. So she got her half of her white dad side, and she was like 109 or something. And we're like, you lose weight, Lynn. Lynn, you lose weight. You're too heavy.
What?
You're too heavy. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. And she had eating disorders and stuff like that. And like later, because she was so just mortified that she weighed more. They didn't want her to weigh over 100.
Oh, that's so crazy. The number.
Isn't that
To put a
crazy?
number on things.
Numbers don't. Yeah, it doesn't matter to me.
How do you look? If you look good, what difference does it make? Like
No.
obviously, being a fighter, you're going to be denser. I mean, how
Yeah.
anybody wouldn't understand that a woman like you, what are you like 5'7"?
5'6".
5'6". At
Yeah.
5'6", 145 pounds, you're going to have a ton of muscle. I mean,
Yeah.
you have to. If you're
Yeah.
doing all the grappling you're doing, what kind of strength and conditioning program are you on?
I go usually like 2-3 days a week, and I go to this place called Phase One Sports, and they work with a lot of athletes. They work with boxers and football players and things like that. So, I do like the most that I really do for like actual lifting weights is probably like power cleans or like hang cleans. Like I'll flip a bar. That's I think really good explosive movement for like for wrestling and things like that. I do sled pushing. I do a lot of body weight stuff, a lot of footwork, and we kind of mix cardio and weight. So we'll do he'll do one set of the workout that's strength based, so it's like anaerobic, and then we'll like run sprints. So kind of like to simulate a fight, like you're going through a combination and it's anaerobic. You're throwing 5-6 punches and you're doing that without oxygen, anaerobic, and then you do something where you circle away and you move or something that's aerobic. Or you come in for the takedown, that's kind of an anaerobic movement, and then so it simulates the fight. So we do a lot of I don't know. It's not really anything super rocket science, I don't think, but I like it. It works
Have
for
you
me.
always done a strength and conditioning program?
I love strength and conditioning in high school and stuff. I lifted a lot of weights. I got criticized a lot actually in high school because I was pretty buff in high school and I wrestled.
You
and
got criticized?
Yeah, I got criticized.
By
Like,
girls or boys?
actually by guys, mostly. I think the girls were kind of scared of me, even though I was like never confrontational. I never like fought people. I was like pretty nice to everyone. But like, I don't know, the girls were probably like, if they knew if they would have messed with me, I probably would have wrecked them, But I was just kind of like passive. I was a people watcher. Yeah, like the guys were like, man, stop lifting me. You're getting too buff. I'm like, maybe you need to lift more.
Were you wrestling in high school?
Yeah, I wrestled in high school.
What was that like?
That was hard, man. It was actually my first half of my season was terrible.
Were you wrestling dudes or were you
Yeah.
wrestling girls?
Primarily guys.
That's ridiculous.
I was the only like consistent female on my team for all 4 years.
What the fuck motivated you to go do that? You just like wrestling dudes?
Yeah. No, actually, that. Like I said, it was terrible. Like my first day. Oh my gosh. Well, I'll get to why I did it. I did it because I can't play basketball. That was really the reason why I didn't do it.
Well, did you want to play basketball?
No, I hate basketball.
Well, that's probably why you can't play basketball. Because I bet if you wanted to play basketball, you'd
Yeah.
figure out how to get really good at basketball.
Probably.
So don't say you can't play basketball.
Well, it would have been a long road. Maybe I could have, but it would have taken a long time.
Yeah, but as if MMA isn't a long road.
Yeah, but it's way more fun.
But isn't it crazy though that the odds of you getting famous as a female basketball player are non-existent?
Yeah.
There was the WNBA still exists, right? Name one famous WNBA player. Name one. Go ahead.
None.
Ready, go. You can't do it. But female fighters,
Yeah.
at the time, it was ridiculous. If you were in high school and you said, one day I'm going to be a female cage fighter, people are like, this is a crazy bitch. Get away
Yeah.
from her. She's
Yeah.
out of her fucking mind.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, you're famous.
Yeah, the
You-
UFC was just barely coming out, I think,
Yeah.
then, it was like, so, I don't know, it was crazy. So I decided to do it out of default because I wanted to do a sport, but I was really reluctant to play basketball or even try. It just didn't appeal to me. It didn't click. Can't dribble the ball. I don't shoot well. Like I did in PE a couple times. I'm like, this is not the sport for me. I can't jump very high. Like everything is just like I'm not made to play basketball. And so I went out for wrestling. And I was like, yeah, I guess I'll try this. And we didn't tell my dad at first either because he would have probably like been mortified. He was mortified when we told him, but it was too late by then. I was already like, I was already in it. I think my mom thought I was going to quit. So she like tried to hide it from him for like, 2-3 weeks or so, like thinking, oh, she's not probably going to like this. But I loved it.
How many girls were on the team with you?
One other girl. It was my best friend, Sharon. And it was actually her idea. I never probably would have thought of it. We were in honors English class, little smarty pants. And she looked at me one day. She's like, I really want to do a sport, but I don't want to play basketball either. You want to go out for wrestling? I'm like, wrestling? And I always thought wrestling was so weird. Like in middle school as a kid, I'm like, what are they doing? Like they're these boys in these tight suits, like rolling around. This is weird. So I had this like distaste for wrestling, but I was kind of like, well, it's better than basketball probably. Yeah, sure, let's try it.
Wow.
Yeah, that's how, it's nothing against basketball, but I just can't, I don't know.
How did you know that you liked it?
Wrestling?
Yeah.
Well, the first day I got my ass kicked. Bad. Like I left with like mat burns all over my body and my face. Like I didn't know what I was doing. They tried to get me to quit. They didn't want the girl. They did not want us there. And
They meaning the teammates or the
teammates
coaches?
and the coaches.
Really?
Yeah. The coach was kind of an ass. Like he was only there for 1 year. He actually ended up getting fired. But anyways, yeah, they did not want us there. So I think they thought like if we make this as hard on them as possible, they'll just quit. Because that's like, I think they had like a couple years before like a girl come out and like they never last. Like they never made it past the 2 weeks. So I think I kind of felt that and I was like, you just wait, motherfuckers. I was like, I'm gonna prove you wrong. I'm gonna stick around and I'm gonna do this. And I was like, and I sure as hell know I can't get any worse. I was like, so the law of diminishing returns says I'm bound to get better. And yeah, I kept coming back every day and it was the hardest thing that I've ever done. I think that's why I liked it so much. It was fucking hard. Really, really hard. And they did a lot of conditioning, a lot of, but I didn't mind that at all. Like I love that stuff. I love working out. I love conditioning. I love pushing myself. The part that was the most challenging was the actual wrestling because they didn't want to teach us anything. They didn't want to teach me anything. I remember they put me in there with a guy who placed like third in state and he just wrecked me. I was like, can you at least show me a double? I was like, I don't know anything. I don't know how to do any of this stuff. Like, can you show me? They're
So
like,
you're just a body.
Yeah. They're like, nope, just go wrestle. And he just embarrassed me.
What a shitty fucking wrestling coach.
Yeah, well, I don't know. They didn't want us there.
Was that the first time that you knew about yourself, though, that you liked to overcome adversity like that? You liked difficult challenges?
Looking back on it, I think so, because I didn't realize how tough I was until I got through like a wrestling season. I'm like, holy crap, like that was really hard.
High school wrestling's brutal. It's for people who've never done anything difficult too. It's probably like their first
Most people don't stay. I
Introduction.
mean, you start out with a big team and half the people drop like flies.
Yeah, really quickly.
You know,
yeah.
and then a couple kind of dwindle out and you're left with like a few that are, you know, really there to do it. And especially with me being so terrible, like I lost, I probably lost just about every match that year. I never wrestled before. You know, I was competing against guys. I can't remember exactly. I think I beat a girl like later in the season, my first year, and I lost. My very first wrestling match was actually against another female, which was rare, and I lost by points. But she was like a senior, so you know it was whatever. I just tried to. No, I got pinned. That's a lie. I remember I got pinned. She was a senior. It was like second round, and I just didn't know very much, you know, and then I went on. And actually, my senior year, I ended up wrestling varsity.
Whoa.
Yeah.
That's crazy. So you went through freshman, sophomore, junior, and senior year.
Yeah, all 4 years.
All 4 years you wrestled.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
I loved it.
Whoa.
I lived for it.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
And the senior year, you were a varsity wrestler.
Right.
What in the fuck?
I know.
At what weight?
This is the hilarious part, okay? So I was good, but I wasn't male varsity good. You know, I loved wrestling. I worked hard. I came early. I stayed late. I did all that. But I wasn't that level, right? But the thing was that we didn't have a 152 pounder. We had two 145ers. So I wrestled at 145. I didn't know how to cut weight. So it's just what I was walking at the time. I was heavier, almost heavier in high school than I am now. And I didn't know anything about diet. I didn't know anything about anything. I thought Joe, this is how stupid I was. I thought that when I had to make weight the next day that I needed to eat the most low calorie foods. So I would go like get the jar of salsa, which has like, I don't know how many thousands of milligrams of sodium, which is going to help you hold water. I didn't know. It's like, oh, it's 5 calories per serving. Let me eat this whole thing. And then like, I'm sure I was like a balloon the next day. Like, it's no wonder like I couldn't cut any weight. Like,
well, there's no science. They didn't teach you shit about cutting weight back then.
Nobody taught me anything about cutting weight except you throw a garbage bag on and run around.
Yeah.
You know, and so anyways, there was two 145 pounders, no 152 pounders. So what they would do is basically I was the sacrificial lamb. We would both weigh in at 145 for varsity, and they would decide which opponent was more likely for our guy teammate to beat, and they would match him up so that we could get a win, and they would put me with the tougher opponent so that our guy that had a chance at winning could win, because they're like, they knew either way I probably wasn't going to be able to win again. I mean, these are tough guys. Like, I've been wrestling 4 years. They've been wrestling their whole life, right? And they're cutting weight. So half the time I'm wrestling 152 pound men. Like, I'm weighing in at 145 on the varsity team.
Jeez.
And just getting, you know, oh my gosh.
Did you beat any dudes?
I did, but not in varsity. I didn't beat any varsity guys, but I beat some other guys. I made them cry. I made a few guys quit. It would always get back to our school, too. It would always get back to our school, too. Like, oh, yeah, that guy you beat last week, he quit.
But he quit the team.
Yeah, it would come back to our school because obviously there was a rival school or whatever. But somehow it would get back to school. Yeah, like, I guess he quit the team.
I wonder how much that fucks with their head.
I don't know. I didn't
Some
care.
Some people just, whoa.
I didn't care.
Ice cold.
I didn't care.
Well, of course. How could you? Yeah, well, you can't.
No.
Some people are not going to make it.
Yeah.
You got to keep going.
One time, do you know what a Saturday Night Ride is?
Sure.
Yeah.
Why don't you explain it to people?
Oh, it's the most embarrassing. So it's basically, I'll tell you the story. I got by like 152 pound state placer. I weighed in at 145. I remember he wrestled for White River, and he went out and just bulldozed me right over, and Saturday Night Ride pinned me in like 18 seconds. I mean, he crushed me. But it's the most embarrassing, and like, it's the last, like, if you're a girl in high school, that's the last way that you want someone to pin you. So basically they lay like straight on top of you in like a starfish position, and they wrap both of your arms with their arms, and wrap their legs with your legs, so that you're just starfished out on your back. And like, I was like, what an asshole. Like, he did it on purpose.
Well, why does that, but if it was effective, why is that more embarrassing? Just because your legs are all spread apart?
And it looks like a sexual position, kind of, because they're like right on top of you, stomach to stomach, chest to chest,
as
groin to groin.
Like, yeah, there it is.
Yeah, that's close.
Well, that's a mount. That's someone mounting, grapevining someone.
Let's see. No, it's not really pulling up. The one, go down again, the black and white one, right? That's kind of
Sorta.
like it. Basically, sort of, but he's kind of doing more of an arm bar. So just
It's
imagine
still the
if you
same
had,
thing amount with double grapevines.
yeah. So it's just kind of, you know what I mean? It was
Yeah.
just like demoralizing.
yeah.
Like,
No,
damn
I
it.
get it.
Damn it. And it was so fast too. I was like, but usually, actually, I didn't get pinned in varsity because I was so flexible. It goes back to that. Like people couldn't turn me over. Even the
Right.
varsity guys, like that was my survival technique. Was like my shoulders were so flexible that if like in high school wrestling, you can't go past what's potentially dangerous. You're not allowed to like dislocate someone's shoulders. So it's like they would try to turn me, and my arm would just be going, and they would be like, you can't go past that or you're going to dislocate her arm, you know? So it was like, that was my Hail Mary. It was like, I'm really flexible and I'm super tough. And I would have let my arm dislocate for sure. I was not going to let him turn me.
That's one of the interesting things about wrestling, isn't it? Is like there's some things that you would do in a fight that you're not allowed to do in a meet.
Well, it's collegiate wrestling, so it's there's different styles. There's collegiate, which is like more safe for schools, you know, because they're kids, and then you get into freestyle wrestling, which you can throw people and slam them. And collegiate, you have to kind of set them down. You're not allowed to just like pick someone in the air and go boom, you know, throw them. You have to kind of put them down.
But even in freestyle, like remember when Mark Schultz fought in the Olympics and ripped that guy's arm apart, got him in a Kimura, and sort of tossed him with a Kimura and just yanked his arm backwards. Yeah, I mean that he got disqualified for that. Yeah. Which were in the UFC would be an amazing move.
Yeah. Well, I guess it's just a different mindset. I guess they think of wrestling as wrestling and fighting as fighting. It's different.
It is, but it's like it's effective grappling. It's like the use of your body against their body. Yeah. It's interesting in that way.
But I think for wrestling, I don't know if you're supposed to use like joint manipulation. I think maybe that's the difference.
Right.
It's supposed to be like that you can control their body like with your weight on top of them, not necessarily like contort their joint in the wrong direction so that, you know, that's jujitsu. That's where jujitsu comes in.
Do you remember when Matt Hughes fought Ricardo Almeida and choked him out with a front headlock? Yeah. Which is a move that is actually used in wrestling all the time. That was a fascinating time.
Some wrestlers have adapted more of that stuff too. Like they put that in there more. It's like start putting some pressure on the throat and folding people over it, and they try to sneak it in there a little
Matt,
bit.
who's so fucking strong, when he gets a hold of you in that position, and he's pushing.
Like a pit bull.
Yeah, he's pushing against your arm, and it's pinning against your neck, and then he's squeezing your neck on the other side. He's choking you out, like just like I had an arm choke, but in a reverse position.
Yeah. It's pretty crazy.
Yeah. I was amazed when I saw that fight that he did that he was able to choke out Ricardo Almeida, who's a jiu-jitsu black belt, but more amazed since then that no one else has been able to do it.
Yeah. I think. Have you wrestled? Did you ever wrestle?
Yeah, I wrestled in high school.
You wrestled in high school?
1 year.
Yeah, it's hard. Why didn't you do the other ones?
Taekwondo, so I was doing
you were in
both.
Taekwondo.
Yeah. I just decided that Taekwondo was easier. I like that. And I like kicking people. It was like I wasn't
Wrestling
a
is one of the hardest things, isn't it?
It was also that I had to do it at school. So it was like I had to stay at school, which I fucking hated, and I was just a zombie. Yeah. Like after I was so sore. I remember like we used to do these sprints upstairs and shit and carry each other across the football field, and I was so fucking sore. Yeah. I just remember thinking like, horrible. Fuck this.
Or we used to do like what they call them, like gut busters, I think, because they literally make you want to vomit.
Yeah. I was doing both at the same time too. I was doing Taekwondo and wrestling at the same time. I just had determined.
I wish I could have done more extracurricular like school activities besides just what was offered by the school. That was one thing, is like we struggled a lot financially growing up. We didn't grow up in a privileged household by any means, and my parents couldn't afford to put me into gymnastics at the time, you know? Right. But I'm glad, because I think that's what I wanted to do. I actually wanted to do gymnastics instead of wrestling. But they're like, you know, it's too much.
Right.
And
makes sense.
But I'm glad that I didn't come from super privileged, because it just gives me a whole different perspective.
Sure. You appreciate what you've earned, I'm sure. Yeah. When did you start striking? When did you do any sort of striking martial arts?
19. When I was 19.
What did you start out with?
I think it was just kickboxing. Yeah, just normal, like learning to throw kicks and normal, you know. It was kickboxing for MMA. I never did any like just straight anything. It was always about MMA. And obviously I had wrestled, so the goal was always to grab people and get them to the ground. Right. So yeah, I started with kickboxing, learning how to throw basic kicks, learning how to throw basic punches. But before my first fight, I think I had like maybe 4 weeks of striking, which is like nothing.
That's crazy.
Mm-hmm. It was crazy.
Well, in those situations, like I had a buddy of mine who was a jiu-jitsu black belt, really high-level jiu-jitsu guy, and he was taking an MMA fight. And we had a conversation about it before, and I was going, well, how much striking are you doing? And he's like, once a week, I get together and I do this. I'm like, holy shit. I'm like, listen, do you know what you can do to guys on the ground? Well, someone can do that to you standing up.
Yeah.
And if all that guy has to do is keep you from getting a hold of him, and you're Fucksville. Like
Yeah.
you have to be understanding that like there's a difference in the consequences as well. Because
yeah.
the consequences of being in there with like a dangerous striker are one wrong move and you get clipped with something and you wake up.
Yep.
It's such a different thing.
Mm-hmm.
But so many people that are really good at one thing, they think all I have to do is do my one thing and they won't be able to stop me.
Right. Well, I went into my first fight kind of ignorance is bliss too. Not thinking like, you know, if I can't do this, because I just didn't know how devastating it could be to get like kneed in the face. Now up in Washington State, they don't allow amateurs like to throw full-on knees to the face. Like,
They don't?
No, they don't allow it. Like in amateur fighting, I think in California and stuff like that too. Like now, there's more regulations and they don't allow it just because a lot of times amateurs are still learning, and just such a brutal blow, like
Right.
a knee to the face. Like you're, I mean, that's a hard. There's no protection. It's straight like
Right.
knee bone. You know, it's pretty brutal. My first fight, oh my gosh. You know, I went out there, I wrestled her. I pretty much that's all that I knew. I don't even think I threw a punch on the ground. Like I took her down, like the easiest I've ever taken her down. And I think I forgot that I could punch because I was just, that's all I knew was wrestling. So I just like wrestled her the whole time. And then the second round, I came out and I threw a 1-2-1-2 and I tried to grab a hold of her and she put me in a tie clinch. So her and her husband owned a Thai school up in Canada. So she was like a really good striker, no wrestling or really much grappling, a little bit. And I didn't know what it was. I didn't even know what a Thai clinch was, much less how to defend it. So she just starts kneeing my face off. And the only thing I can think to do is shoot. So I'm just shooting into knees.
Oh,
just
God.
bam, bam, bam. And then like one of them caught my nose just clean on, busted it, flattened my nose. And, I was like in such shock, and you know, because this is the first time I've been hit really. Like you don't take blows to the face in wrestling, so I'm just like, whoa, what is going on here? What am I doing? And she kind of like pushes me down, and like because I'm still shooting, but I kind of like slump out of the off of the legs a little bit. I'm a little bit stunned, obviously, and she spins around and takes my back. She's trying to choke me. And I remember like I had this epiphany moment. It was like the world stopped, you know, and she's still trying to like fight me and beat me up. And I remember she's trying to choke me and I have my hands like this. And it's such a vivid moment because it's how I got this start. This is how I started my career. It was my first fight ever. And I'm watching this pool of blood and there's a steady stream, like not even dripping, like it's just pouring out of my nose, and this pool of blood is just getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and she's still trying to choke me and punch me, and I'm thinking like, this bitch. That's exactly what I was like,
Oh my God.
oh hell no. And I got pissed. I got pissed. I lost my temper in the fight. And I started bucking her off. And that's when the fighter really came out of me. Because before that, I was still wrestling. I was like,
You were
competing. That's when the fighter came out. I got fucking pissed. And I was pissed not only that my nose was broken, not only that I got hit, but that she had my back. That was what pissed me off. Like the rest was kind of like, but I was the wrestler. Like, fuck you. Like, get off my back. Like, you're the striker. You're not allowed to be there. So I like started bucking her, and she fell down into the guard position, and I stood up above her, and I reached to the ceiling as high as I could, and I just started raining down punches from the standing position, and the blood is going everywhere. Like, she's soaked in it. I've got it all over me. I'm just bleeding like a stuck pig, like everywhere. And I remember her face just kind of like wincing, like trying to weather the storm. And that's how the second round ended. And then I went back to my corner, and like the head coach was like, we can't let you go back out for the third round because your nose is just so, like, we don't know how bad it is. And I was super bummed because that was the turning point in the fight for me. That's when it actually became a fight. And I was like, I really wanted to go back out in the third round and just whoop this girl's ass. I got so pissed.
So you lost the fight, but you learned a lot about yourself.
Yeah, a ton. And I had to go home. That's bringing this back full circle. This is where my very chauvinistic grandpa at the time. And, but, he was kind of sexy. He was so old school. Like, he was like, women do this and men do that. Women don't do this. So you're not allowed to do that. And what are you doing? I had to come home. Oh my God. That was the most dreadful drive I ever had because my nose was literally like 3 times the size. I had no definition between the bridge of my nose and my cheekbones. Like, it just went straight out. It was flat like a lion, and then it just went straight out to my cheekbones. That's how bad it was. I mean, it got broken bad. And then over like the next night, like I could barely even open my eyes, and I had 2 giant black raccoon eyes. So it was like, there's no hiding it, like, and you got to look your grandpa straight in the face, and he's like, tisk tisk, I told you, and you're just like,
that's what he said to you?
Oh yeah. Oh man, he was just like, he just would not lay off of it. He was, this is why you shouldn't be doing this. This is absurd. This is ridiculous. This is embarrassing. And my dad's just like, he's so embarrassed. Like, he was just, he was embarrassed. And I'm in the back of my mind, I know that I can't say anything at the moment, but in the back of my mind, I was thinking, I'm not done. I've got to do this again. Like, in the back of my mind, I was thinking, because everyone was like, well, good thing she got that out of her system. Like, she'll surely never do that again. Thank God she got this, she learned her lesson early. And I was thinking, I was like, I can't, I've got to get back in there. I got to prove that I can do better than that. I was like, it was too embarrassing. I'd have to face everyone that was telling me like I shouldn't be doing that. And you know what everyone says to you, like, before you, like, at least back then, everyone would say to me, don't break your nose. That was like my like, good luck, like people say like, oh, go kill it in that meeting, break a leg, people like the other way, like, well, good luck in your fight. Don't break your nose. Fuck. No, it was so embarrassing. I think I missed like a week of classes too, because I had done it over like a break. So I had like, I don't know, it was like, I don't know, winter break or something. And then I missed like a week because it was still so bad.
Did you have to get it fixed?
No, I probably should have. It's still not fixed, but you can feel it. It's like, you can feel the like disassociating. My septum is like, it's.
Do you breathe out of your nose at all?
Not very well.
Yeah.
To be honest. About the right side, like, I could
Whoa.
barely. And this is a good day.
Have you ever thought about having it fixed?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have. But, hopefully one of these days.
Junior
I'll get
Dos
it
Santos
fixed.
just did it recently.
Yeah.
It helped him a lot. Yeah.
Yeah.
I did it. I didn't do it till I was like 39. My whole life I had a fucked up nose. Oh, it's amazing to
I
be
feel
able
like I
to
always
breathe out of
sound
your
really
nose.
nasally now too. Like, I listen to myself. Like, I'll probably go back and listen to this podcast. I'm like, God, I sound nasally.
I used to be just like you. I'd be like, one side was like 3/4 closed, the other side was totally useless. I had no breathing out of my nose. It was just all fucked up in there. But now it's like,
yeah. And then, that's nice. I'm jealous. Way to rub it in, Joe.
well, you could get it fixed.
Yeah, but then I was wondering, like, don't they have to like shave it down?
No.
Or like,
No,
do
it's
they just
inside.
straighten it?
Yeah,
Because
it's
some
inside
people like
of it.
open up they open it up, but then it makes it a little bit weaker or something to get broken again.
No, I don't think so.
No?
I think they shave down the turbinates, the inside, like there's these bumps inside your nose that it hinders the opening, or it makes the opening smaller. They shave that down. They cut out the inside that's all calcified too for me, which is like cauliflower. Just like cauliflower ear, you get that in your nose as well.
I feel like I'm asking for it to get broken again though as soon as I fix it. Like, it's just like,
it's gonna get broken again probably anyway, right? If you keep fighting.
Yeah.
But I think that like at least you have more of an opportunity to breathe, and your cardio will definitely improve.
True. That's
Although
one thing
you have
I've thought
very
about.
good cardio already.
Thanks.
But if you breathe out of your nose, I'm sure it would help you in a lot of ways.
Yeah. I have to look into it.
Yeah, I mean, like when I was a kid, I went to a doctor like when I was like 19 or 20, and I had a real problem with it. And the doctor said, look, unless you stop fighting, you need to just deal with this. And then once you're done competing, then do it.
Yeah.
And I just left
Never.
it alone. But then I'd snore really bad. And when I take yoga class, I couldn't breathe out of my nose. And finally I just bit the bullet. But after I did it, I made a YouTube video about it because I'm like, oh my God, all these people saying that it was like really bad. Like, fuck, it's nothing. It's nothing.
Yeah.
The operation was nothing.
What did they like? Did they put you under?
Yeah, but I mean, when it's over, like everybody's like, "Oh my god, it's so awful, you're miserable."
Did they re-break your nose?
They definitely get in there. They
Didn't like break it and reset it though or anything. No, because they didn't need that.
It's broken up here. Like you could feel like it's all where I was. I broke it when I was 5. Was the first time I broke it.
Yeah.
And then I broke it who knows how many times after that. But the inside was where it was all fucked up. It was just, and he said it was one of the worst he'd ever seen.
Yeah.
He's like, boy, this thing has been broken a lot. He said, I don't know how many times you broke it. I'm like, I don't know either. But I mean, compare my nose though to like Vanderlei. You remember when Vanderlei's one of those guys where if you look at Vanderlei's like first fights,
shave down like his
everything,
bones and stuff too.
Yep.
To,
well, he
like,
had to
not
get his
cut.
That was Nick Diaz. Nick Diaz had his
okay.
bones shaved down and he had scar tissue removed. But with Vanderlei, he probably had that done too. But he had a bunch of scar tissue removed because he had so much scar tissue that his eyes were drooping like severely and his nose was flat. I mean, just flattened. There was nothing left.
Yeah.
So he had a piece of cartilage removed from his rib, and then they redid his nose, and he had his nose made big so that he could breathe out of it better. Like he had the.
And this is while he was still fighting?
Oh yeah. Don't you remember when he fought in the UFC? He looked one way, like when he fought Chuck, and then like he looked like a completely different person. Yeah.
I guess I didn't even notice the nose because I was so focused on like the bone structure. Like I feel like that maybe
he had a lot done.
Yeah. He's crazy too. Like when I've trained at his gym before, madman. He spars like all out. Like he tries to kill people.
Yeah, no, he fights.
Madman.
There's no sparring with Vanderlei. It's fighting. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've talked to people that spar with him, and they're like, "What in the fuck?"
Yeah, he just kills people.
Well, it's
like
just,
no mercy. Like, give me more training partners. I break more.
Yeah, that's just.
Well, that was like more of a Russian accent. That's not what he sounds like at all. But it was like mean like that.
I'm here to fight, to fight. To fight is the
Yeah,
tools
that's Brazilian. There we go.
For me, to fight is important.
They just make him really mean until like he's chewing through his training partners. That's what it was like.
That guy got fucked over. He really did. I was so upset when they tried to give him a lifetime ban, and what what they did was really wrong, and sent him on his tailspin. Then he said a bunch of crazy shit about the UFC, and it's like that. The whole thing made me really sad because they were trying to make an example out of him. But look, that guy never failed a drug test. I don't know who the fuck knows what he was doing. He definitely did some shit, especially in Pride, for 100%. I mean, when he fought Krokop, he was 218 pounds. That's not from creatine.
Right.
He did some shit, 100%, right? But back then, you were allowed to do whatever you want. In the UFC, he never pissed hot. He never got caught. So to have this one time where he ran away from a drug test and to say that he's banned for life, it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's just a total abuse of power and a really callous abuse by these people that are a part of the commission because they are responsible for this guy's livelihood, and they just decided to treat him as an example and not respect him as a pioneer of the sport. What my thought is, you should treat him as if he pissed hot. Look, you ran away from a test, guess what? You're automatically pissing hot. So it would be like 9 months.
Right.
And instead they said life. And I'm like, that is crazy. You can't take away a man's livelihood.
No, he would have been better if he would have pissed hot, technically. Would have been better.
Well, much better. Yeah, much better. He would have been back fighting already. He'd be already scheduled right now in the UFC. He'd probably be still in the UFC and still fighting. And now I guess he's going to fight for Bellator, and he's got to fight overseas because they reduced his suspension to I think they gave him a couple years or something like that, or maybe even less. But
It's a long time in a fight career, though.
Fuck,
I feel like.
yeah, especially when you're
short
38.
enough. Yeah, as it is.
I mean, what is he, 38? He's got to be, right?
Yeah.
37, 38. It's so weird, too, because the TRT thing, which was around for quite a few years, and you saw the rejuvenation of Vitor and Dan Henderson, these guys that were on TRT that all of a sudden started doing really well again.
Yeah.
And it's such a gray area, and then that gets removed, and then everybody's got to go back to your normal hormone secretion.
Yeah.
It's like, oh.
How do you feel about the IV ban?
I don't like it.
Yeah, I don't like it either.
I don't like weigh-ins. This is what I feel like. I feel like we have to move away from this weight cutting thing because there's a difference between this sport and any other sport other than boxing. And I think that the head trauma aspect of it makes weigh-ins 24 hours a day extremely problematic when we understand the science of rehydrating the brain can take as much as 70 plus hours. Mm-hmm. So that to me says that we're doing a bad thing.
Yep.
We're doing a silly thing, and we're letting fighters compete compromised. I think with someone like you and someone like Holly, you're a similar size. I think you guys should make an agreement, and the UFC should say, okay, look, Miesha, what do you weigh right now? You weigh like 146. When you're in peak condition, what do you weigh? 143. Holly, are you cool with 143? Yeah, okay. Well, let's just weigh you guys during camp. We'll weigh you guys sporadically, and we'll give you a couple pounds to play with. Because realistically, the difference between a 143-pound person and a 145-pound person is nothing. It's just, it's not enough. And as long as no one's dehydrated, let's take hydration levels.
That's an interesting concept, though. But think about this for a minute. Wrestling weight classes typically about 5 pounds apart until you get into the bigger ones. So in theory, 5 pounds makes a big difference if when you're talking about manipulating someone else's weight, because you're 5 pounds less, but they're 5 pounds more. So it's almost like, if you think about it, a double. Like in my mind, it's almost like a double.
Right.
And 5 pounds can be a lot if there's a lot of wrestling. Striking, I don't think doesn't mean anything. Jiu-jitsu, maybe not as much, but maybe getting someone to the ground or being able to sweep someone. I mean,
it can matter.
It doesn't sound like a lot. It depends how big you are. 5 pounds to a 300-pound person isn't that much. 5 pounds to a 115-pound person is a lot. It's a bigger percentage of their body weight.
That's a big point. Like when you're talking about like a straw weight or something like that, that's a big point.
And I think Holly walks around like 160 something.
Does she?
Ish. She's a pretty big girl.
Well, I just feel
Strong.
like she is. Yeah, you can tell. I really feel like there's got to be a better way to organize weight classes. And I just don't know if forcing someone like Holly to compromise her body to get down to 135 and then rehydrate up to like 150 or whatever she does.
Well, weigh-ins came into the whole play because of like betting, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like back in the day, that's what they would like want to show off the fighters and get people to bet on them. Like, who do you think's going to win? So it was kind of like more of a showing than really like a weigh-in. Like, look how big this guy is. He weighs this much. And look how big this one. Which one do you think's going to win? And they would get people to bet. And that's kind of how weigh-ins came about. The day before, try to get people interested in the fights. And
is that what it was?
To boast the fighters. Yeah.
Well,
to
it's
get the shirts off and get them on a scale and show how, the size difference or whatever, But
didn't they used to do it the day of the fight?
I don't know. Maybe.
I believe
I'm not sure about
in
that.
In boxing, it was the day of the fight.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure, though, that's like where that kind of came in. And then I think they started making more weight classes, and that's how it got like more specific. Like you have to be a certain weight. And I understand that you want people to be within a certain weight of each other. But then the problem is like there's no way to really monitor that.
Right.
Like some people blow up between their camps and other people don't.
Mm-hmm.
And how do you, like you said, how do you really regulate? Like what if I said, I walk around at 147 and Holly's like, well, I walk around at 162. Then you're like, well, then you can't fight each other. But it's like, she's like, well, but when I diet and I do this and I come down, I can make the same weight as Miesha. It's like,
how much does she cut though? Does she cut way more than you, or does she lower her body weight?
I'm sure she lowers the body weight. I'm going to guess and say she probably cuts from about 150.
Well,
but I could be wrong.
See, then you're only dealing with a few different pounds, right? Like, would you say you're like 146? Is that what you said?
Yeah, 147.
So you're dealing with 3 pounds.
Yeah.
So that's not bad. But that's not cutting weight. It's not dehydrating. I think we need to measure the amount of hydration that's in the body.
Then what you do is what they instilled in the wrestling programs in high schools. Essentially, they weigh you, but you also have to pee into a cup, and you have to be a certain amount hydrated. And then they tell you can't go below a certain weight because that would mean you're dehydrating yourself.
That's
so
definitely
we can,
a smart
weigh in
safety
on a
move.
Scale, and then also you have to test the hydration of your urine. And so you'd be able. I mean, that would be really the only way to ensure people are not dehydrating themselves to make a weight. Otherwise, you do have to be the same weight, though. I mean, to be fair, to have a 135-pound title, you'd be 135 pounds. Like, it can't be roughly.
It should probably be a diet thing more than a dehydration thing.
Right.
I just think that also it's such a dangerous sport already, and to add this extremely dangerous weight cutting aspect to it, like the guy in Brazil who died last year from weight cutting.
Yeah.
That can happen. It's happened in high school wrestling. It's happened in college wrestling. And it's happened in MMA a few times now.
It's not a good thing.
No, it's not.
And the IV ban, from my understanding, it's kind of silly because they say like, well, because it can mask like, what what is it, EPO or something?
It can mask certain type. You have to talk to Nowitzki, but it can mask certain types of performance-enhancing
right.
drugs. It's been proven.
So from my understanding, what I understand is that cyclists used to use it like right before they knew that the person was going to come and test them. They would hyperhydrate their blood so that it would look like it was a normal consistency or whatever.
Hematocrit level.
Yeah,
right.
yeah. Hematocrit levels that they would be hyperhydrated, so there wouldn't be as much when they would draw it. But the thing is in our sport, first of all, we're monitored for at least probably 3 hours before our fight. We're taken to venue and a commissioner does not leave our side at all. There's no way to like cheat. You're not going to IV up for, a real quick 10-minute, and like, no, like they're in the bathroom with you. You're completely monitored. And I feel like maybe if they were going to ban it, maybe they could do it under like a medical, like if you need an IV afterwards and like you have to go to the hospital and get one administered or something, like there could be a way around it. Because the thing about cyclists and other sports that they banned it and then they just transferred it over to MMA, it doesn't add up because we do cut weight.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I agree with that. It makes sense.
Because they're not taking that into account.
The only thing that I would say is that what they're doing by the IV ban is they're checking plastics, that plastic residue that comes from the tubes into your body, and that could be from blood doping. So blood doping could be one way that you could have an illegal advantage over your opponent, and they could eliminate blood doping by eliminating IVs because this the small trace amount of plastics that show up in your blood from use of an IV in the bag and the tube and all that stuff, you could actually use that with blood and gain an endurance advantage over your opponent.
Wait, you're saying by using the IV and putting like injecting like an EPO, is that what you're saying through an IV? Or what are you saying?
No, by putting blood, like blood doping. Blood doping, you take blood out of your body, you weigh in, and then once you weigh in, then they reintroduce that blood back in your body. You have much more blood because your body's replenished the blood that was missing. And now you all of a sudden have a massive endurance advantage. That's what EPO replicates.
Right.
What EPO replicates is what they were getting by just blood doping.
Right.
That's what blood doping is. Just pulling blood out of your body, storing it in like a...
And then you put your own blood back in?
Yes. You never heard of this?
Well, I've heard of EPO, but I thought it was like...
Well, that's what EPO is. EPO is a drug.
Right. So that simulates it, like your body to, like you were at a high altitude. I knew about that, but I didn't think about like taking your own blood out and putting it back in. Wouldn't you just have too much blood?
Yes, you would have too much blood, but temporarily it gives you a big endurance advantage. Eventually your body brings your blood back to baseline, but that's what EPO is doing. Huh. What EPO is doing is accelerating the amount of red blood cells your body produces. What blood doping is doing is reintroducing blood that you pulled out. Once your body's replenished that missing blood, now you're throwing even more blood in there. It's probably actually safer than EPO because EPO can cause strokes. And EPO is tricky stuff, but it's also a drug that a lot of fighters have gotten caught for.
Yeah. Well, I thought, because I didn't think about that, but I thought EPO it's like you can tell when it's, I guess, like the color of the blood or something is a little bit different or when you have EPO in your system, like they can tell if it's fake.
Well, they didn't used to be able to test for it.
Right. But now they can.
Now they can. But I think there's two issues with the IV. The main one is the masking of other performance-enhancing drugs, but another one is the possibility of using these bags and these tubes to add additional blood to your body.
Yeah.
So, but I've also been told that can be worked around with a glass syringe and with a glass container for the blood or IV fluid. So I don't know if that's true either.
Oh, so weird.
Well, there's going to be a lot of moves and counter moves.
Yeah.
Like Nowitzki was saying that they figured out a way to make testosterone out of animals. They're taking testosterone from animals. It's indistinguishable from the bio-testosterone that your actual body produces versus like the stuff they make now, which they make in some sort of a laboratory environment with wild yams. That's how they make testosterone.
With yams?
Mm-hmm. That's one of the reasons why a carbon isotope test can differentiate between exogenous testosterone and testosterone that's naturally produced by the body.
That's crazy.
It's fucking nuts.
Isn't that insane?
Well, I mean, you're dealing with this massive, massive sport that's just so crazy that there's, and I don't have to tell you, there's the edges that you gain. I mean, the edge that you got think about all the strength and conditioning that you did, all the crazy drills you did. It all came down to that moment in the 5th round where you knew you had to take Holly down. And in that battle, which was so touch and go, like it was like if she was countering, you were dragging her down. It was a struggle. Any little edge there is the difference between you walking away the new champ and you losing a decision.
Yeah.
I mean, any little edge there.
Yeah.
And that's where it comes down to people, and that's where people get fucking shady as fuck.
Exactly.
Right?
Shady as fuck.
It's got to be the hardest feeling in the world, though, to know that the reason why you did win.
Wouldn't that be? I feel like that wouldn't be satisfying.
It can't be. You can't.
I don't know. Or if it is, then it's just like, why would you do a sport like that? Like, I don't know.
I think sometimes people do it because they think other people are doing it too. Like I remember Fitch. I had a conversation with Fitch once, and he was like, I would never do anything. This is back when testosterone was legal. And he was like, I wouldn't do anything until I'm done. He goes, once I'm done fighting, he goes, yeah, I would definitely take hormone replacement therapy when I'm older and all this jazz. But right now, he goes, I would want to know that I did everything I did by myself.
100%.
But then Fitch pissed hot.
No.
Then he got caught. But he was fighting Paul Harris. And everybody knows Paul Harris might be doing a little something, something. And so I think maybe it was one of those things where he's like, look, this is not a level playing field. I'm not gonna cheat myself while this guy's doing something.
Yeah, well, and that's the problem. Is like, if, everyone starts cheating, then you either have to, or there's got to be a way to combat it.
And that's the asterisk on the Pride days. Like that's the one thing you have to look at. You got to go, man, amazing times, but who knows what the fuck everybody was doing? Yeah. Who knows what everybody was on?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, it's just
scary.
It's really interesting, and it's really interesting that this sport is so popular now, and there's so much riding on it that it really sort of highlights all of these moving and pushing of the boundaries and trying to achieve an edge. And how much can you achieve through supplementation, like natural things, cordyceps mushrooms and B12 and natural supplements, and how much can you achieve through that, and how close does it get to illegal means?
Yeah, I don't know. And I think when money gets involved, it always changes things too. Politics change a lot.
Fuck yeah, it does.
It changes a lot. So people are willing to do whatever they can to get that win and get that paycheck, I guess. Some people, not everyone. But
how do you have a plan for how long you want to do this?
I used to. I used to think I had a plan. That plan went out the window. I turned 29. I just turned 29 last August. And I still feel pretty damn good. Like, it's weird that I feel that, technically I've been doing this for 10 years, but I still feel like I have so much to learn and so much to offer. And I feel like I'm learning so quickly. Like, man, I talked about the law of diminishing return and all that. I don't feel like that applies to me for some reason. Like, I still feel like I'm just evolving so quickly and so rapidly, and especially with my striking, because it wasn't something I ever focused on before. That sounds weird. Like, I didn't focus on it.
When did you start focusing on it?
I started focusing on it more right before I fought Ronda, focusing on it. But I moved my camp to Las Vegas like halfway through that training camp, which was, it needed to happen, but it was bad timing in that I'm getting like a couple new coaches, and we don't have the lingo down yet, and it's like a language you learn between your coaches, and we didn't have that, so there was definitely some hiccups. But after that, I've won 5 fights and won a title, so I think I definitely made the right move. Just maybe the timing was bad, but I started focusing on it 6 weeks before that camp, and then since then I've been working with my coach Jimmy Gifford, and he's helped me tremendously and focused more on my strength and conditioning, actually making a regimen and doing all the things that I guess you're supposed to do as a professional athlete. Because before, what I was doing just was I was a little bit ignorant, and, I worked hard, but worked harder, not smarter kind of a thing. Now I have people back me. I have a nutritionist, I have a sports doctor, I have a strength coach, I have a striking coach, I have 2 MMA coaches and wrestling coach, and I've got it all. And I feel like I finally figured it out. Finally have a good gym where I'm at and everything too. So,
well, that's where it all comes together, right? Is when your dedication matches your talent, matches your focus and your desire, and it all comes together. Yeah. And now, as a champion, do you feel like do you have more confidence now being a champion? Do you feel different? Like, do you feel like, I fucking did it?
100%.
Like, yeah, I belong here.
It's one thing to believe you can, and it's another to know you can. You know, believing you can, I mean, that's important. That's crucial. You have to believe, but it's entirely different once you know. You're like, and now I know. And not only do I know, but everyone else knows too. You know, it's a different feeling. It's a whole different animal. It's a whole different ball game. Like something's changed inside me that I can't explain. Something's just different. And I feel like I hit a new level.
You feel very satisfied when you're saying this. I can tell.
Super confident, super satisfied, super confident. But I'm still hungry. Like, I still feel like I have a lot to accomplish. You know, I think I have a really tough match in Amanda, actually.
You definitely do. Amanda Nunes is no joke.
No, she's
dangerous.
No joke. I remember, did you watch her fight with Julia Budd in Strikeforce when she knocked her out with that one punch? And Julia Budd was the bigger, stronger girl and a striker. She knocked her out. I mean, she's got one punch knockout power. She showed up against McMahon. You know, she beat down Sarah McMahon. She beat her down. She hit her so hard that it just made her want to quit. And then she climbed on her back and choked her out. Like, man, she's good. She's well rounded.
She's very dangerous.
She's very dangerous. You know, I think that she might have an issue with cardio. If I was going to pick at something, that might be something. Maybe she's not as efficient in the cage, but she's been working to change that. You know, she knows this is a 5-round fight. I can't rely on someone getting tired.
Right.
That's never a good game plan. Like, okay, I'm just going to try to stay out of harm's way until she gets tired. Like,
well, she seems to explode in fights and then drain the gas tank.
She's
She's trying
explosive.
to stop people. And if it doesn't work out that way, she has a little bit of an issue.
I think like 9 of her wins or something, or first round finishes.
Yeah, she's a monster.
Yeah.
Very, very strong striker. A very physically strong person,
and she's got like a brown or black belt in jiu-jitsu and a brown or black belt in judo.
Yep.
They're very well-rounded.
Yep.
There's not that many girls in her division that are that well-rounded. So she doesn't have a lot of holes in her game besides seeming to hit a wall sometimes in a fight. And
and I think with her, as one of the things that I said about Holly in the Ronda fight, is like, you look at how accomplished Holly is outside of the UFC, and you wait until the moment when she could put it all together inside the octagon. And she might put it all together inside the octagon when the moment is the biggest, when she has to rise to the occasion. That might, when you push her back against the wall, it might be when you see her at her best. And it turned out to be exactly that. And someone like Amanda, she's going to realize, like, this is the time.
Yeah.
This is the opportunity to put it all together. You can't half-ass a thing in training, a thing with nutrition, a thing with your mind. She has to show up 100% focused. And so for someone like you have to look at her like her potential and look at all of
the best
what she,
of her. The girl that beat Sarah McMahon, that's the one that I'm training, you know, and even better than that girl, because we have to assume she's evolved.
Right.
But that's the best I think I've seen her look. So I have to assume like she's going to be better than that even.
Do you have goals as far as like what you want to do with the title? How long do you want to hold it? Do you have any thoughts in mind of like must beat opponents? Like, is getting Ronda back in the octagon?
Yeah, that's important. I need that. Like, that has to happen. That's very important to me. And I have Amanda ahead of me. I do not want to look past her because I think that would be a huge mistake. It's not one that I want to make as a veteran in my career. That would be a rookie move. But, you know, in the back of my mind, of course, like the fight with Ronda is something I want to happen. And you don't know when it will happen. It could be anticipated for November. I've heard that be tossed around in the UFC that, you know, she's planning on coming back, and maybe it might be Madison Square Garden. That would be great. I want to focus on that. I want to focus on Amanda, but I know in the back of my mind, and I want that fight. Like, I want that to happen. I think it's so important to me in my career to go and beat Ronda and prove everyone else. Like, I've been an underdog in most of my fights. I've been the person that people have always counted out in my entire career, my entire life. Most people are telling me, you can't, you couldn't, you shouldn't, you wouldn't. And I'm fine with that. I'm perfectly fine with that. I am at the best point in my career, and Ronda is at the worst. You know, she's going through what I've already been through, you know, time and time again. And I have built myself back up from that point time and time again. I know that I can do that. I'm confident in that. Here I am standing the strongest that I've ever stood, and I've already been through that. I've already been head kicked and knocked out. That happened to me before. Like, I picked myself up, pulled myself up on my bootstraps, put one foot back in front of the other, and got my Strikeforce world title. I lost it to Ronda. Picked myself back up, put one foot in front of the other, got back on the horse, fought Ronda again in the UFC, was devastated, crushed, thought my world was just falling down around me, coming to an end. Got back up, put one foot in front of the other, got back on the horse, and now here I am, the world champion. You know, I know that I'm tough. I know that I have what it takes to beat Ronda. Many people don't believe that. That's okay. I've been in this position before. Most people didn't think I was going to beat Holly. Most people didn't think Holly was going to beat Ronda. It doesn't matter to me what other people think. It matters what I believe and what I know. And the question mark is how is Ronda going to come back from this? I know what I've been hearing from Ronda in the media and the press. She's been a little quiet lately, but before that, it wasn't what I would have expected to hear from someone who really wants to come back and who's really, really a fighter at the core. She's a great athlete. She's a great fighter. She's accomplished a lot of things. Credit where credit's due. You know, I give her a round of applause for everything she's been able to accomplish. But I'll tell you what, every time I've ever lost in my career, I went bananas to get back in there. Ballistic. I was like, I have to, like right now. Just like Holly was like, they're like, when do you want to fight again? She's like, tomorrow against Miesha. Now. That's what you want to hear when someone has a devastating loss. They want to get back in there right now and face that person right now, or someone else. Just get that loss off the record. Erase it. When I lost to Kat Zingano, I freaked out. I called Sean Shelby and I was like, get me another fight right now. He's like, your nose isn't even healed. I don't give a fuck. I want to fight. I want it now. I want to know when it's coming up, like right now, or I'm going to freak out. I don't know what to tell you, but I'm going to lose my shit if I don't have like a fight on the horizon. I'm going to lose it. And then I hear Ronda like, oh, I'm going to take a year off and I'm going to do this. I'm like, that just doesn't sound like someone who really wants this anymore. And I think that fight might have broke her. I could be wrong, but I think something inside of her is different than it was before. Maybe she's not broken, but it's different.
How much do you think how much of a factor do you think success is in terms of she's doing movies? She was the darling of all these late night television shows, and everybody wanted to hang out with her. She's doing these commercials with, Seth Rogan on television. Like, how much of a factor is that?
Well, she has security now. She has job security outside the UFC, so she doesn't really need that anymore. And I think maybe that's also something on her mind is like, does she really want this? Because winning is awesome. It's great. It's easy. It's like when you win, everybody loves you. Everybody supports you. Everybody's there. Everybody's on your train. When you lose, it fucking sucks. It sucks. And only the people that really love you are still really, really there for you. Everyone else is just like, whatever, loser. And then you have the social media, white knights that come out and want to tell you what a, piece of shit you are and how you're never going to accomplish anything and you'll never win another fight and you might as well just quit and retire, blah, blah, blah. So you're those people and you have to make a choice, and my choice has always been to keep fighting, and I don't recognize. There's a lot of things I recognize in Ronda that I can recognize her greatness. I can recognize, her championship. I can recognize things. I don't identify with that. I don't identify with sitting on that loss for a year. I cannot understand it. If it was me, it would have eaten me alive inside and out. I couldn't have done it. I couldn't be making a movie. I couldn't be doing that. It would have just.
But I don't think she has a choice. I think if you have movie contracts, I think you have to fulfill them.
Do you?
I don't know.
Does Conor have to show up for?
But it's different. But showing up for press conferences is one thing.
Yeah, but I think she could have fought because they said they had anticipated for her to come back at UFC 200. They wanted that, and Dana said she could have, but should she? She could have, but should she?
Well, I think the could have and should she was because she had to do a movie for 3 months. So, like, doing the movie for 3 months would have taken 3 months outside of her camp. And you've done a movie before. You know what it's like. You're on the set all day. It's 16-hour days. It's long and grueling. You don't have time to train.
Yeah, but
after a loss like that, I think you really have to have enough time to actually focus. And then on top of that, to getting flatlined like that, like you have to have some time to recover your head.
Yeah, absolutely. I just don't know if a year that would. I'm just saying that would crush me. I wouldn't be able to do what she's doing right now.
Right.
I wouldn't physically be able to deal with that for a year. And if I had to, I think it would eat me alive. Like, I think I'd be so depressed and so.
I'm pretty sure it's eating her alive too.
Yeah, but I mean, how do you sit on it for a year then? How do you do that?
Do what you got to do.
I can't. I couldn't.
Well, it's all speculation. We don't know until she comes back.
But the other thing too is like, she's like, she had her, her downs, her really, really low, which I empathize with. I've been there. But then she said, I was thinking about, all these negative thoughts, and then I looked up on the Ellen, she said this on the Ellen show. I looked up and I saw Travis Brown, and I realized, I've got to stick around to have his babies. And I thought, like, what went through my mind is like, I got to get back and get my title back. I got to get back and like win a fight. Like it just seemed like her mindset was different than what I would expect a fighter's mindset to be. Does that make sense at all? Like what I'm saying is like, it didn't seem like her motivation was to fight and win. Again, there was other things. Now, I'm not saying she's not going to come back and be great or come back and fight. I'm not questioning that. I'm questioning where her true motivation is coming from, because I think while she was winning, it was so awesome. Like she's like, well, yeah, I want to keep doing this. Of course I want to I'm crushing girls. I'm demolishing. I'm the star. All these great things are coming. Now she already has that. She's already making movies. She already has millions of dollars. Is her true motivation, was it just, keeping that undefeated streak? Because she talked about that so much. I will retire undefeated. And then she even said, like, I'm questioning, what am I doing now? Like, now I'm not going to ever retire undefeated. So what is my, maybe I'm meant for this. Maybe she doesn't really know. That was her identity, was like to be undefeated in this sport. So if that's not the goal anymore, I just don't know. Like, I feel like I sense something off. I sense something is not right in her mindset. And I think she's going to come back, and I think she's going to fight. And I think she'll fight hard. But I just don't know if she still has it after a brutal loss like that. Is she still hungry enough?
Those are fighting words, Miesha Tate.
Is she hungry enough? That's the question.
But what you're doing right now is you're throwing up the bat signal, right?
Yeah. Well, that's how I feel.
You're laying it down.
Man, I get a lot of shit because people are like, oh, that's not what I don't apologize for anything that I say, unless I really say it's something that I didn't mean to say, that was hurtful to someone, and I'm like, I fucked up. But honestly, if it's my opinion, it's my opinion. If you don't like it, I'm not going to apologize for my opinion.
No,
I'm
I don't think you should.
For anything that I have to say about the way I feel about Rhonda, the way I feel about any of these situations, So I'm going to be as transparent as I am.
I don't think you're saying anything disrespectful either. And I don't think you're saying anything you should. I think as a champion, and that's what you are, you're analyzing someone's mindset, and you're totally entitled to that.
Yeah. And I have a lot of respect for Rhonda as an athlete, a lot.
You guys think you'll ever be friends after all said and done?
No.
Never?
I don't think so.
No?
I think she thinks that I've done so many things, and like, I don't think she would ever. I think she blames me for things that I didn't even do. So, I mean, how do you even get around that?
Right.
Like I heard when you guys did your interview, she said something like that I called a promotion and like tried to get Chris Beal, like, mess with him before like his fight or something. That I guess he was contracted to another promotion, and he wasn't supposed to be while he was on The Ultimate Fighter. And I guess that Dana received a call, and then she thought that I like did that. I'm like, first of all, like, I didn't even know he signed to another organization at all. And if he, if he was, wouldn't have even crossed my mind. Like, I'm too easygoing to even think of something like that. And I'm not malicious by any means. I have nothing against Chris Beal, but I think she thought that I tried to like mess with him. Like, I called the promoter of whatever organization, little small contract. Don't even know how I would have known that.
Right.
How would you even know that? How do you know? But this is the same girl that ripped Paige for congratulating Holly. Like, she has her way of thinking, and she's going to hate me until the day she dies. And I'm okay with that. That's fine. We don't need to be friends. That's okay. I'm perfectly fine with that.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, listen, congratulations on everything. What you did in that Holly Holm fight was fucking amazing. It's awesome.
Thank you.
And I think you're a great representative for women's martial arts, for martial arts, period. But as a champion, I think you are a great representative. Just your personality, the way you carry yourself is very admirable. And I think you're a great role model for people that are coming up and looking at what a champion behaves like.
Well, I appreciate it, Joe. Very kind words.
Thanks for being on the podcast, too. Thanks for hanging out.
Thanks for finally having me.
It was a lot of fun. Anytime.
Did my fans finally bother you enough to get me on here?
People bother me constantly. There's nothing I can do. I only have so much time. But thank you very much, Miesha.
For sure.
All right, folks. We'll be back Friday with Ian Edwards. See you then.